We're bringing the thunder. We are Thunder. Flesh and blood down under. Whoop, whoop. Who do we have tonight, John?
I don't know.
Hello there.
It's Phil McKay.
Phillip McKay.
What's your
Welcome.
highest accolade?
I need to start with this.
ProQuest winner?
No, hold on. It's Mackay.
Mackay?
Please.
Oh, no.
Mackay, is that a place in North
Just ruined
Queensland?
everything.
No, it's actually like come up a few times in like events where people have said Mackay, and I'm like, it's Mackay. What's my highest accolade?
Yeah. ProQuest winner.
In Fab?
Yeah.
Day 2 Pro Tour?
Day 2 of Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Nah, ProQuest winner's higher than that.
Is
for
it?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Sure.
But very, very avid player, brewer, Spike, as we would call him.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I'd say I'm a bit of Spike.
Welcome, Mr. Mackay.
Thank you.
Are you from Mackay?
No, I'm definitely not from Mackay.
Do you know where Mackay is?
I do know where Mackay
right,
is.
'cause
Actually, I used to date a girl who lived in Cairns, so
Poor her.
I'm aware of the far north.
So I grew up there. I lived there for a bit, like
In Mackay?
Rockhampton. No, Rockhampton.
Okay.
Close. Close to Mackay.
Yeah, no, I'm very much from Sydney, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah, sure.
What's on the menu, Tall Timmy?
Well, we have, quite possibly Australia's TCG community's most polarising character.
Sure.
Phillip
He'll take that.
Phillip McKay. You either love him or you hate him. I love him, team. Absolutely love him. Very good friend of mine. And but the first thing I wanted to ask you, Phil, is I've watched Phil. I've sat next to Phil in many events, team. And seen Phil get on tilt or breathe out, exhale quite excessively
In German.
when people get on his nerves. It's priceless, team. It's actually a work of art. So my first question is, Phil, how much do you actually despise dumb people?
Enormously so. I mean, I've written a few papers on it, actually. Look, I think what it is, the tilt thing is... It's not actually, and I want to make this really, really clear.
Sure.
When I am getting mad when I'm playing Fab, I'm never mad at my opponent, right? Absolutely never have I been, except if someone's blatantly cheating or they're being a dick or something, in which case, sure. But I'm never mad at my opponent. It's just when you understand sort of like the statistics of what's happening, sometimes, especially someone like me who's played card games and a lot of card games for a very, very long time, when certain things happen, it's just so much better, I find, to just relieve that stress straight away and go on tilt, say a few unsavory things. I try to do it in languages that people around me don't understand, as John mentioned.
That was the first time I met you. You did that to me.
Yeah.
Because I blocked with a route and then I killed you with a route and you're like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And you lost.
And that's on camera on the Talk
It is
TV
on
show.
That's it. Yeah, skirmish. Yeah.
I don't know if his face is on it.
That was
much.
great. Yeah.
That was fun.
I still don't know why I was playing against a Dory that was running double main deck route.
Because I killed everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I was thoroughly outplayed and outgunned at the time. But I don't know. I find it's way better to just get it out of the system. And this is the other thing. I never do that in very major events, right? I think most top players don't, right? But if you don't have fun with it when you're at an armory, when you're around your mates, then it just builds up and it becomes way too much to deal with. And I mean, I've definitely had times where previously playing other games, I've kept that in for way too long, and then I get to an event and something happens, some small margin, 1% chance, top deck, whatever, and then it actually tilts you for the rest of the time that you're there. But if you just vent it in a fun and harmless way, when you're not playing a major event, when you're not scaring people, then it's way better.
Jeez, Phil, you opened a door there. Give us an example. Do you have any regrets from previous card games where you were younger? Look, I've been there. Jeez, I used to, going back to when I was younger, I'm sure I made some very poor decisions. Do you have any regrets, or is there a situation you can walk us through with the previous card game where you may have acted out of character or done something really extreme?
Are you asking if I've ever been banned or something?
Okay,
DQ'd.
Tell us, please.
Have you slapped an opponent?
I haven't. No, I've never slapped an opponent. I got DQ'd from a Weiss Schwarz event once. So people who don't know what Weiss Schwarz is, it's probably the most weeaboo card game that exists. And I don't have a very high...
Sorry, say that again.
It's the most weeaboo card.
Explain
It's
weeaboo
basically
for the old farts like me.
People
it's
who...
a titty game.
Yeah, the anime titties, right?
Oh, okay. Here we go.
It's really for people.
I've heard it's a good game, but
it's a great game.
Japanese art.
Yeah.
lot
So
of
it's
girls
graphic.
in-
Yeah,
graphic.
it is. Some of the cards are extremely graphic and a little bit underage. So it definitely, some of the artwork's very dubious. I don't have a very high tolerance for the animes, so I got into it because of the gameplay rather than the artwork. I remember I had this one event that I got DQ'd from because my opponent hit a line off the top, which at the time I was thinking about this is the only possible line that he could have hit, and he hit it, and it cost me something like, well, if I'd gone into top 8 and continued playing, then it would have been like $5,000 or something total in terms of prizes and things like that. And I just really lost my shit, to put it, very, very mildly. And I was going off in French, and like the tournament organizers came around to me and they were just like, oh, people are very uncomfortable about how French you are. Not in that many words. Yeah, that was exactly what they said to me. And they were
That's the translation, the abridged version.
And they were
They're
just
like,
yeah,
so you're being aggressive, and you're hearing it as stop being French.
exactly. And they're like, yeah, you should probably just go cool out outside and don't show up to top 8. I was like, all right, fair enough. I guess. I definitely wasn't saying anything mean about my opponent, but yeah, I could definitely understand. Like if you get really, really angry, especially if you're someone who, I don't know, has. I went to boys' private schools for my entire life, right? We say some pretty horrendous things to each other. Anyone who knows about sort of boys' private schools stuff is not PG. So when you kind of grow up in that environment where you kind of shoot from the hip sometimes, yeah, I can definitely understand why people feel like that can be targeted towards them. And that's not a good situation to be in like I said, in a serious event like that. That's definitely not acceptable. Don't do those sorts of things. When you're in your armory, yeah, I don't care if Timmy high rolls me, I will say Timmy high rolled me, and I will tell everyone that he's a scrub. Who just only wins because he plays brute, etc. All these sorts of things.
I find it very entertaining. I love when Phil's sitting next to me in an armory. It gives me the greatest joy when I hear Phil going off in armories. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I think the other contributing factor is I like to take really weird stuff to armories sometimes, because I play all the competitive stuff when I go to actual events. So then when I go to an armory, I want to resolve my Johnny combo. Right? Like I want to 40-0 my opponent or something along those lines. And then if I play a 5-round event or 5-round armory or whatever, and every single time I'm paired against meta decks and I lose because my opponent's deck is obviously better than mine, and also they've played the game properly, I'm annoyed because I wanted to do my dumb thing and I didn't get the chance to do my dumb thing.
Is that why you've been hanging around the West?
Yeah, pretty much.
Coming out to the sticks.
Yeah, I need some
lately for
easy
your
XP.
armories. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have. I've prepared some material about this. About a certain hero in the game that I'd like to present for you guys.
All right, tell us.
Is this lecture time?
It's not lecture time.
Oh.
These are actually...
I mean, like, are you going to lecture us about...
I'm not going to lecture you. I'm actually going to
show
read
us.
you some poems
Oh.
that I wrote myself.
Okay, before we get into that, is it pronounced... Because we have some academics here. Team, if you don't aware, Phil is actually an academic, okay? He's
Alleged.
He's an academic. So I actually have a question, because for some reason growing up, I always pronounced... how you said poem as poem. No. Is it poem or poem?
It's definitely poem.
There's no poem.
There's definitely two syllables.
And that's for you, Teens Princess. She always gets on my case, my missus, whenever I say poem instead of poem. So it is poem.
Where did you learn poem?
I don't know. That's just what I've always said.
Are you raising the E at all? Are you going to
No, I just say poem.
It's
like
definitely
P-O-M-E?
two syllables.
I just say poem.
You're saying it like P-O-M-E?
So it's got two... Is that what
Definitely two syllables.
Okay.
Yeah,
Poem. Well, I've always just said
poem,
poem.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Is that, by the way, is that even English?
Poem? I mean, most English words aren't English, right?
No, I know, but like it could have been French is what I'm trying to say.
It is a French word.
Yeah.
How do you say poem in French?
Yeah,
poem.
Okay, there you
it
go.
sounds French when you say it.
Just same thing. But yes, no, I've prepared it's actually a haiku.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, have a drink.
Yeah, have a drink. So I've titled this Haiku for Briar One Tricks, who only eat the green and yellow crayons. Open bracket, because they're earth and lightning coloured. Close bracket.
Go. Yeah, we hear you. I know who you're talking about. Keep going.
I need absolute silence here, Paul. Okay.
One of your best, Phil. Any more?
Just hold on. Okay. Third channel mount. Nice. I pitch stacked my arc lights. Sad. You lose. Runeblade scum. And look, I understand that for Briar One Tricks, that might have actually been a little bit hard to understand. So I've also I've rewritten it as a Dr. Seuss poem, which I'd also like to present to you right now.
Oh, I mean, please, Phil, please,
sure,
please
we've got all
continue.
night.
Indulge us. This Thunder is going to all new heights right now. All new heights.
I thought I'd like bring a bit of thespian candor to it.
Yes.
And, you know. But here we go. I am a Briar One Trick through and through. I don't want to be friends with you. I never think too hard when I play. Oh, yay! Dad's picking me up from preschool today. That's right.
Please, keep going. I can mute his mic if you want.
It's all right. That's I need to kind of chill out because this. Oh man, this is some good material. There's like 6 verses in this poem.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
That's right. I'm 3. I'm Mum's special child. Don't give me red cordial. It makes me go wild. But that Runeblade Kool-Aid, I'll sip it on the reg. I love to net deck better players and chow down on their dregs. When I lie awake in my bed, staring at my cards in the night, I wonder, what are these little numbers in the bottom right, down yonder? But I smile. It bothers me to no amount, for I have never learned to count. When I show up to an event, it's a sight to see. Oh no, I forgot to bring my brain cell with me. Sonata, channel mount, then attack for 35. How will I remember these complex lines? I draw my first hand and it's plain to see. The deck will just play itself for me. If every turn I just dump my hand, that gold foil will be close at hand. Nimblism, rabble, revel, Rosetta Thorn, I'm just playing with myself. It's like watching porn. But wait, what's this? My opponent defends? What torture, what savagery, the suffering never ends. I've lost, I'm defeated. No gold foil for me today. I wish I picked another hero and just learned how to play.
Bravo, Philip.
Who is that director?
That is absolute. Jeez, you have. Yeah, let's raise a glass to that too.
Cheers, mate.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
What do you think of that, John?
I mean, it should have been titled Runeblade Players, but that's just me.
To be fair, I mean,
No, the other two are more complicated.
Yeah,
to play,
yeah.
for
I
sure.
mean, with like Viserai, you have to play a non-attack, and then you have to play an attack.
Yes.
That's it. And with Chain, you have to do exactly the same thing.
Chain, yeah. Look, what I'm saying is they're still slightly more complicated.
Yeah,
than
no,
Briar.
look, obviously facetious, but yeah, man, I can't wait for Briar to be out of this game.
So which Runeblade are you playing at Pro Tour Lille?
Obviously Briar.
So, look, I understand the message, but is there room in a game like Flesh and Blood for, easy heroes?
Absolutely.
Do we need them?
Not
Are
that
they
dominate
necessary?
the meta. No.
Are they
Absolutely.
necessary?
You need to have easy heroes in order to play the game, right? In order to bring people in. Not every single hero can be, Oldhim or Prism or whatever. But if the easy hero is super polarizing, as it was for quite some time. Starvo is also in the same crayon munching generation as Briar, I agree. Then, yeah, you're going to have a bit of an issue. I have a bit of an issue with that as well. Because
It's the only moment I ever thought about quitting the game.
Right. Same. Yep. I found it a really annoying meta.
Because I knew I was sitting against someone I beat on a regular basis. I asked them and they said, I built the deck last night. And they were hungover. Like, I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the same thing.
And then
in
I
Dragon
got
Ball.
whooped 38-0. Shouldn't be possible. Shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, it
I
sucks,
blocked
right?
correctly. I played my lines perfectly. I just got slapped in the face. Yeah. Nah.
And I think it's such a shame. I mean, I also understand that sometimes the reason these things happen is because card design, I think you guys actually talked about this at one point, is
We
that
did.
card design is not a vacuum, right? You can't just ban stuff and bring stuff in, and sometimes the meta. And sure, sometimes mistakes are made. Duskblade, right? But we don't all need like a sponsorship to Crayola in order to win, and like coming out with briar at every single event ever, and just like never blocking, like never learning. I think that was my main issue with briar, is that you could play the deck
and block with one card.
Yeah, or block with 0 cards, and every single turn it was just dump my hand, dump my hand, dump my hand. Ooh, I drew channel. Like, very, very good. Like high quality gameplay, exactly what we want to see. Anyone who's watched a briar mirror knows exactly how boring that was.
Isn't fire mirrors? It seems to me like fire is similar to that now.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
There's
I actually don't have a lot of
depth.
experience with it.
Yeah, I don't think there's much depth either. It's just like, hopefully you draw into a 30, 40 damage turn, because you can. And you probably have to remember certain triggers and go get the Phoenix Flame, but there's not much stacking happening. There's not much deck building, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the pitch stack is a really fun part of the game, and it's a fundamental mechanic of the game. And I wish it were more relevant in more decks. But I also understand that it's a mechanic that you don't want every deck to be reliant on, because then
I couldn't do it.
Right.
I don't have that kind of memory.
Yeah, like some people, can't do it or don't want to do it. You don't want to put that amount of time. Like you can definitely do it, but
sure,
you don't want to put the time
that
into learning.
It's learnable whether you have a good memory or not.
Yeah, and that's
also remember, we're not allowed
restricted.
to write this down. That's a rule. But like, if Flesh and Blood allowed me to write notes as I went along, I would write yours and mine.
Sure. So would everyone, right?
Well, not everyone, no, because it's a lot of work.
Oh,
You
yeah,
go
I guess
to time
at a
too
competitive
often.
level, right?
Yeah, I'd have a little shorthand going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, if that was how the game was intended to be played, I think, or if LSS wanted the pitch stack to be more relevant, then they probably would have allowed people to write it down.
Well, I think, remember, you can only pitch stack if you don't shuffle your deck at any point.
Right.
So any deck, like if you ever played Stavo or Oldham with Awakening, you weren't pitch stacking, basically. Even Kano has a card that you have to shuffle your deck, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so you can't play those if you're trying to pitch stack. It's very simple.
Yeah, exactly.
And most of those cards are very strong to go look for a card specifically.
Yeah, Lessons is fantastic.
Yeah, but you cannot have a 700 damage combo coming up at the same time. You have to rely more on luck.
Yeah. I think, the meta's in a good place right now. I'll definitely say that.
Oh, well, I was about to say Oldham and Icelander. The meta's slower. You have more chance of pitch stacking. Like, again, even as Warrior against Icelander, I can see my second cycle. It'll happen.
Which is a good thing, I think.
Yes.
Because it adds a little bit of complexity to certain matchups, right? Like, I'm not pitch stacking in every single matchup, even though I play control decks, right?
Yeah.
So it's good that I guess it's a bit less fatiguing as a player, than not fatigue as in, you run out of cards in your deck, but fatiguing in terms of if you're playing a long event, tiring.
15 rounds of pitch stacking.
Right. That's
will do your head in.
playing 50-minute games is very, very, very difficult. So having a little bit of that, in certain matchups where it's actually relevant, I think is great. And then, in other decks, doesn't necessarily need to be there. Briar was just like, oh no, I played the red card and then I followed it with another one. And then I had a third one in my hand, so I played that too. And then I used my tunic and I swung with Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah, for 2 and 2. Yeah, it's great.
Great.
I've been there. Yeah, I can race them now with Doria. I love that. I love
Absolutely.
I love watching the Briar's face take 20 damage, take 10, and then they go, oh, I die if I don't block this turn. 3 turns into the game, I'm like, yeah, see, I'm a warrior. I cannot block and have armor to block with. You have to now block. And they just lose all way of playing the game.
Yeah,
They haven't practiced it. They haven't practiced the bit about blocking.
Yeah, you can definitely see sometimes just in people's eyes when they're playing. I mean, I hate to single out the Briar players, but it's happened a few times over the last couple of weeks where they've, gotten to turn 12, which for a lot of Briar players is uncharted territory, right? And then I see the light in their eyes suddenly start dimming and dying.
Oh, I can't win this one.
And they're realizing, oh, hold on, he's still at 25 life. I have 10 cards in my deck. The maths doesn't add up. What are we going to do? Right? I've already played all 3 of my Channel Mount Heroics. I have no Sonatas left. I have no Force of Nature. How to play game?
I can't wait to see someone play Rewind on a Channel Mount Heroic in an advance. That will be the highlight of my life, by the way. It's like, oh, did you pitch 3 for that? It's back in your hand now. And then the briar plate's going, well, I don't have another blue, so pass.
My whole hands. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Look, I think part of my not hatred with Briar, but I guess disappointment is that I really like Blossoming Spellblade as a card, and I am very, very sad that the Blossoming Spellblade Force of Nature interaction didn't become more mainstream, because I think that's just a really cool effect where every
play
time you're hitting, yeah. I mean, if you want to, OTK combo people, yeah, go for it. Is Stubbies banned?
It is, yeah.
Now, yeah, okay.
So there wasn't Shiana build with Stubbies and Briar
Force of Nature,
special. Yeah, so good.
But the Blossoming Spellblade interaction was just so cool, and I really wanted that to be the way that Briar play, like a very complex deck where you're using Crown of Seeds on your turn, not on your opponent's turn, on your turn, aggressively to have a 5-card hand and things like that. Seemed really cool to me, and then it ended up just being a deck where the text box didn't even matter on Briar, really. It was just the fact that it gave you access to a card pool that had 4 power go-agains and also Channel Mount Heroic. Like, when you look at a deck, and I think this is this kind of segues in really nicely to what I'm here for, which is advertising.
No. Phillip, I have a laundry list of hot button questions we need to get
you got to get through those before you're allowed to advertise.
Okay, But to finish that point, essentially when I look at a deck and it's playing a bunch of cards that are just there because they're blue earth cards, not because anyone cares what the text on those cards is, right? Weave Earth and Earth Force, they may as well be blank. Like, they have niche benefits, sure.
No, they just say Earth on them.
They say they're Earth blue cards that block for, 2 or 3. That's, and like a quarter of your deck is that? Something like that? That's, I don't know, a little sad to me. I find that a bit of a failure of the design process. An inevitable failure. I mean, it happens, right? I've been on the other side of the curtain as well. Sometimes you screw up when you're designing cards. I'm not sure this was a massive screw up. I think it was a little mistake, but
I think they just got it was unlucky that it was the second Rune Blade that was
I think that made people a bit annoying.
Yeah, that's more than it would. It wouldn't have mattered. I mentioned this to Paul. Like, it wouldn't have mattered if it was. Mind you, Oldham turns out is also a little bit broken, and if those two are not as broken, then Lexi is quite broken. So that set in particular has some. But again, if it was just Lexi that was felt unbeatable, there would have been less rage because it wasn't another Rune Blade.
Right. Yeah, and I think Ranger having its time in the spotlight is not a bad thing. I think Lexi's in a really good spot right now, actually.
She's not game breaking. That's for
sure.
But she's very good.
Game breaking. She loses to the 2 best decks in the game. So
but she preys on everything else.
Absolutely, yeah. Great deck for sure.
Well, Paul, why don't you ask him some questions?
Look, I want to get to Lexi. I want to get to the Pro Tour. I want to get to all that good stuff, G's team. This is going to be a long one, so bear with us. First thing is, let's go back to the time we met Phil.
Oh boy,
if you remember.
Yeah, no, I do.
So this was my second armory at RC Crew Games.
Yes,
I didn't know you from a bar of soap. I walked in there and you came fresh off a hot skirmish finish down at Canberra, I believe. You were down in Canberra playing a skirmish.
ProQuest, or was it skirmish?
I think it might have been a skirmish.
Oh, no, sorry. No, you're right. Yeah.
You had some promos. It was my second time at RC Crew Games. I think it was the second week I was playing the game. And out of nowhere, we were having a chat, and you just gave me these promos from
Do you remember what the promos
Yeah, the
were?
Ursa promos.
There you go. Yeah.
And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, like, I didn't ask for you just gave them to me. And I was just like, wow, that's like really generous of you. And, at that time, we were chatting, we got along quite well. And I didn't expect that. And basically, the reason why I say that story is because, there is a bit of tall poppy syndrome in the community. You can see that in all TCG games. Yeah. Like, do you feel any sort of hate that's come your way or vitriol that's come your way over the years, whether it's in Fab or it could be, Yu-Gi-Oh! Schwarz, any MTG, any card games you've played, do you think that's like just like a hater thing or people jealous of you, or how do you explain that? Or is there some merit in that? Do you think that maybe there have been some unsavory acts, like you said something in this titty competition, you got a bit salty using a few, French inflammatory words. Like, what do you think it is that basically what I'm getting at is why do you think, and I can definitely say that, why do you think, not that you polarize, why do you think people have, a strong opinion on you, where do you think that comes from?
So I think the hate for anything is always justified in some way, but you just have to figure out what that justification is. So in my case, I mean, that's definitely because I come off as a strong personality and, my voice and my accent are in a particular way. So when I say certain things, it comes off as, potentially condescending towards certain people. I've also done well in pretty much every game that I've picked up. I'm very happy and very proud to say that I've found some kind of success. It's inevitable no matter what when you're in a position of, whether you're a content creator or a top player or something like that, there's always going to be people who, yes, I don't want to necessarily say it's jealousy because I don't know these people personally, right? But yeah, you do definitely get certain sorts of comments. And especially when I was younger, and I was doing, because I played my first World Championship when I was 9 years old or 10 years old.
What game?
That was Pokemon.
Wow.
So when you're at a high level at a very, very young age, sometimes you get a lot of attention that you don't know how to deal with because you're still a kid, right? And then that can lead to you, someone says, I think you should play this card in your deck instead. And I say, well, I think you're an idiot. And that's it. There's no further discussion.
Quote, 9-year-old Phillip McKay.
Exactly. And sometimes, that's just the normal, visceral response when you have it younger. Now, I've grown up, I've matured a lot more. So when people say to me, I think you should play, I don't know,
Briar?
Yeah, right. Like when people say to me, I think you should play Briar, I still come to the same conclusion that person's an idiot, but I at least try to think about it critically.
You are an idiot. So.
No, but look, I think there's a multitude of factors that really lead to it. And this is not really it's a bit of an abstract answer.
Sure,
I guess,
yeah, I know.
I think, sometimes it just comes down to if you're very staunch about your beliefs in something, and even if you explain it to the fullest extent that you possibly can, sometimes there are just going to be people who don't agree with you, right? And I mean, this applies to this applies to life, right? There are going to be reasons that I disagree with someone on, politics or whatever, and it'll come down to some moral difference that neither of us can reconcile, right? Now, card games aren't as game-breaking as whether or not, you think humans have the right to life or something, but it's sort of the same train of thought in that sometimes it's just a fundamental reason why people disagree. The biggest one for me is certainly I'm a huge, supporter of quantitative analysis of cards and card games. I like looking at data. I like looking at what's actually on the card and looking at exactly why it works. Whereas some people are qualitative and they'll say, I play this card and it does well, therefore I think it's good, which in many situations is a perfectly correct way to look at things. There are cards that I don't understand why they're good cards because on paper they don't seem to be good cards in any sort of game.
Yep.
But sometimes they just are. And I don't have a way of justifying that in the way that I like to go about things. And, you can just have two different schools of thought.
Well, let's slow it down. You mentioned that you played very high-level Pokemon quite young, 9, 10 years old. And I also understand you are an immigrant to Australia, just like our
Yeah.
So
ethnic background.
tell us a bit about
you
your background.
Am I brown? I'm toasty.
Yeah.
So
tell us a bit about your background. When
Yeah.
you came to Australia, these sorts of things. You've spoken to me privately about a couple of things. I find it very interesting.
Yeah.
Talk to us a bit about that.
So I won't go
How you got?
depth.
Too in depth. Share us what you will, what
Sure.
you feel like, how you got into TCGs. What was your first Pokemon? Yeah, explain it to us.
So I was actually born here, but my very earliest memories are not from Australia. My very earliest memories are actually from England. But when I was young, very, very young, we, moved. My heritage is Mozambique and Portuguese on my mother's side, and Mauritian French on my father's side. And there's also some German and other African in there. So when I moved around a lot when I was younger, I didn't stay in the same school for a very long time. I was bouncing around Europe. I was in England, Portugal, briefly. I think we might have stopped over, or we were there for a couple of weeks in Germany, and back to Australia and Tasmania, which is another country. And I love Tasmania.
It's very far away though.
Yeah. But Tasmania is actually where my TCG life started.
Hey, okay.
So when I moved there, I was very out of place as someone of
that didn't have red hair.
Right. I mean, Tasmania has a very particular ethnic
Are your
makeup.
parents not related? No, I'm kidding, Tasmanians. We love you.
I mean, especially in the early mid 2000s, right? There was not as much immigration going on in Tasmania. The idea of like an Afro-European kid coming to Tasmania who didn't sound like ochre Australian was a little strange, and I didn't have a lot of friends in school. And then one day my father, he found out about Pokemon Leagues, which is just like locals, and took me and got me to start playing there. And I did really, really well. And I can't remember exactly what the sequence of events was, but one day, I think it was either nationals or worlds that I qualified for. And I think it was actually nationals. And I said to my dad, I've qualified for this thing. I did really well and I want to go play in the national championships in Sydney. And he went, we'll fly to Sydney to play a children's card game? What is this? And he was always a big supporter of the local leagues sort of thing, but he didn't really know how far up it went. And to his absolute credit, he was super supportive of me. I did really well in my first nationals, and I was the highest rated player in the Australia, Southeast Asia region leading up to the World Championships in 2007. So I qualified for the World Championships. And back then, in the golden age of TCGs, if you qualified for something like a World Championships, you got
flown over.
You got flown over along with a parent or guardian. And they also sent you a case of the newest set, which was legal at the World Championships, a set which had not yet been played in competitions, if I remember correctly. So I think this was the first or second event where these cards were going to get played. So I think these cards arrived, and I was saying to my dad, qualify, we're going to Hawaii. And he was going, what are you talking about? We're not going to Hawaii. But then he talked to the guy who ran the locals, Ashley Kendall. He's still involved with card games, I believe. And essentially just said, okay, son, what do you need? And, hooked me up with all the cards that I needed. Back then cards were a little bit cheaper, but, still managed to hook me up with everything. Went to Worlds and made... so Worlds was a little different. Like, the format was a little different back then. But basically there were two separate events at Worlds. One of them was the Constructed World Championship, and the other one was the pre-release for the new set. That was kind of like the other major event over there. And in the Constructed World Championships, I was top 64. And in the pre-release event for the new set, I can't remember if it was open to all ages or if they made a mistake, but I ended up playing exclusively with people who were over 18. And there were actually divisions in Pokemon. You couldn't play with people like outside of your division. Divisions were split by age. And I came third in the pre-release, where I'd only played against people who'd been playing for like longer than I was alive. So I was very, very happy about that. And from then on, like, Pokemon was a big part of my life. It was also how I learned to read. When I was 3 years old, I think my father got me one of those original Pokemon Pokedexes in paper, where I could just read through and look at all the moves and how tall the Pokemon were and, what their stats were and all these sorts of things. I think I still have it. It's battered as hell. He bought it in some market in London or Esher. And I basically learned how to read from that. I started reading at a very young age. So Pokemon cards were great for me because they had lots of words on them. New cards would come out. I'd be the only kid who could read them when I was 4 or 5 years old. So, I was cool back then.
That streak's over.
Yeah, exactly. Early, yeah. I peaked at the age of 9, clearly. But then from that point, I kind of just threw myself into every single game that I could. MTG, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball, Vanguard, Weiss, Buddy Fight, VS System, Force of Will, digital games, Shadowverse,
What's
Hearthstone.
the best?
The best game that I've ever played?
Mechanically?
Oh man, old.
Don't hurt me right now, please.
Okay, it's not Fab.
No, that's why I asked.
Yeah, it's not Fab. Old Pokemon. There was one deck that I played, which was the most fun that I've ever had in anything, probably in my life. And it was a deck that got played. There was a deck that arrived after this one that was so broken that you could win on turn 1 every single game. So they fundamentally changed the rules of Pokemon. It's never been the same since. Just before then, there was a really cool deck that you could play where every single turn you would you'd start the game by ripping your opponent's hand down to 0, and then every single turn you would look at the top of your opponent's deck and reorder it however you wanted. Which, in hindsight, not very fun for your opponent because your win condition was like 1 card in your deck. But you would sit there and basically stop your opponent from playing the game. And I, sadistically, loved that. I had such a great
As
time.
an 8-rack player, I salute you.
There you go. It was exactly like playing. It was the most extreme version of a prison or tax deck that has ever existed in any game that I've ever played. I had so much fun with it. There was definitely that. Mechanically, honestly, Weiss Schwarz is really good. To the point where a very close friend of mine, probably one of my best friends now, Stephen Regidor, him and I, we actually met through this game, and we were so interested in the complexity of the maths for how to win the game that he developed essentially an algorithm with neural networks or something like that. I'm not a tech guy. I don't know anything about this sort. He knows. He works at Google. He's a genius. Shout outs to you, Stephen. I love you, buddy.
Sorry for getting 6 counters on my Dawnblade, Stephen. In your
first
event ever.
He plays Fab now.
Oh, so you've met Stephen?
Yeah. Stephen, okay. He's an absolute
nice
weapon.
guy. Very nice guy.
And he developed this algorithm that essentially simulated how effective every single finishing card in the game was. And we made this very, very long article that people still reference to this day, 8 years later. Or people have messaged me and been like, oh, I read your blog, Make Marika Great. Marika was one of the characters in the game. I remember the header of the blog was like Donald Trump, but with the character superimposed over his face. It was good fun. The mechanics of that game was so complex and the numbers were so much fun. And it was really rewarding writing that article and seeing that people actually appreciated that and changed the way that they play. And people still today, even though they may not realize it, play that game differently because of what we wrote in that article. And that was probably the most fulfilling moment ever. And that stemmed from the mechanics of that game being so interesting.
This is as far as my depth of Weiss Schwarz understanding goes. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's interesting because you level up your characters, but at the detriment of you losing quicker.
Yeah, so essentially...
So is that roughly correct? Like you can get a more... Like you go level 1, 2, 3 or whatever, but if you're at level 3, you can like lose?
Yeah, so basically, once you get to level 4, you lose the game. You can only play characters that are equal to the level that you currently are at.
Your level... Okay.
Your level, yep. The more powerful characters are higher level.
But if you hit level 4, the character, you die.
If you personally hit level... So you're actually the one leveling up.
Like, it's just interesting. But by the way, my issue, just to clarify here, I love the art of Flesh and Blood. And I don't get into games on mechanics. I got in because of the art and the characters. So it's already... Like, I've opened some, but it's not for me.
Yeah. The art is definitely not for me as well. It's actually part of the reason that I stopped playing is because I found it a very uncomfortable environment at times. I'd just be in a room and
Please explain.
Oh, mate.
What do you mean by
Sure,
that?
let's go.
Do you need an explanation?
I do.
Yeah.
So why is your card sticky?
Exactly. Yeah. It
Whoa,
was
that bad?
I mean, there's a
Really?
type of oversleeve, which is called I think it's made by KMC, and it's
I use them on my tunic sleeves.
the sticky.
It's to protect. No, it's to protect the card on like the actual character sleeve.
Yeah, so it's an oversleeve, but they have designs on them, and there was a very famous one, which is still in print, I think, which is called Mysterious White Liquid, and it's exactly what you think. It's a design of.
What? That's the name of a card?
No, it's an oversleeve.
That's what you see on their deck.
You put over your card so that the artwork of your card.
So the sleeve is called Mysterious White Liquid.
Yes, and it's like a clear sleeve.
Made by who? KMC?
I think it's KMC.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's basically like this, an oversleeve. It's got this little frame on it, but instead
So
of
what
it
you're
being
telling
a
me
frame,
right now is these young dudes were beaten off over their Weiss Schwarz cards.
I'm not going to say that's
They're
exactly
pretending
what we're doing.
That's what it is.
But yeah, it basically would give the impression that your cards were covered in,
So
Did you suspect some of your opponents were involved in those nefarious activities?
I mean, man,
he
I
was 9 playing Pokemon. What do you think?
that was Pokemon. Yeah, I mean, when I was,
I don't expect 9-year-olds to be jerking off over Squirtle.
Weiss Schwarz was a little later in my life cycle. I don't think that game came out for a little bit.
Weiss also is not a. They license other stuff, right? So there's Attack on Titan, which is a very famous anime.
Yeah.
That's their new set, and it's the rules somehow limit what sets you can build.
So you
right?
basically pick whatever show or game you like, and you play the characters from that.
Magic
show or
does
game.
that to a point, right?
I guess so. Yeah,
on a much softer way.
It's like you pick a color and
no,
you do
but
that.
Magic do IP.
Oh right, yeah. Nowadays,
like Dungeons
they
Dragons
do these
was an
crossovers.
IP at some point, but there's like Baldur's Gate or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really the most like the corporate extreme of that, where every
So,
single
Paul,
set is a new IP.
There's all these cartoon shows, anime, and they license it and make that set. Every new set is a new anime.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And don't get me wrong, like I love the mechanics of the game, but I genuinely found
But that's
it
how they.
very
That's the
weird.
layer on top.
Yeah.
Is what Pokemon has, but they go and find a popular anime and make a set on that. Which then, so you get a lot of people will buy that set purely because they watch the anime, not because they play the game.
So they don't invent their own stories. They piggyback off.
Yes.
Which is fine. Lego do that as well, right?
Yeah,
Legos,
they create the effects of the
mechanics,
cards, but all the images are licensed. And I mean, they've gotten really big now. I think they've got Star Wars, they've got
they're
bloody
huge.
Toy Story, Cars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Weiss
I mean,
Schwarz.
huh?
Weiss Schwarz does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I got tagged in some stuff on Facebook, and I was like, "This is getting very, very strange." But back when I was playing, it would just be
by far some of the best quality cards. Like if you're gonna get a quad 10 when you grade something, Weiss and
is
Dragon
pretty good.
Ball are the only two you have a high chance.
Yeah.
Like from any pack to get
Why?
one. They just
I don't know,
printed
man.
so well, man.
I think
I don't know. My sister has them, but I've opened like a couple of cases with her because she loves anime. So that was a little birthday present.
I think they know that there's because like Dragon Ball is a massive IP.
It's
there's
true
high
collecting,
collectability, and a lot of people they go, I want to collect the ultra rare cards for my favorite anime, so they'll go and collect them. It just so happened that sometimes those shows have 14-year-old girls who are like wearing underwear, bikinis, and stuff like that, and like I don't want to be looking at that all day when I'm playing. And it kind of
Well,
sucked
it does
as well.
attract like from what it does attract some weird
It
weirder
definitely
than you
does.
would probably find.
Did
in
you
Fab.
did you pair against some very strange
Yeah,
people?
mate, absolutely.
Like some freaks?
Yeah, there are people whose hands I didn't shake.
Everyone that plays
Like-
everyone that plays Wise is unsubbed by now.
You could even like I part of the thing that made me uncomfortable was that I wanted to play the best deck, and sometimes the best deck was highly pornographic. And
What are we talking? Are we talking softcore? How deep are these images?
It's
get-
anime.
yeah.
It's not.
What are we seeing?
Pornographic.
Sex? Is there
It's
sex?
sexualized.
I mean, you're getting
It's
real close to it.
sexualized.
There are
Okay.
some like
I'm just trying to.
Daniel Lee. I know you're out there, buddy.
Like, I legit have never seen a
Shout out,
packet of
Daniel.
Weiss Schwarz. I'm not asking these
Well,
questions.
Alpha Investments opens a chunk of it, and he just makes jokes the whole
Just, like,
time.
pull them up.
Show me the most.
What's the?
Oh,
show me
no,
the
I
most
know exactly.
explicit-
What's one of the sets
Show me
called?
the most explicit.
Isn't
image
one of the
for a
sets
Weiss
called Rent
Schwarz
a
guy.
Girlfriend?
No game, no life.
No, but one of the sets is called like Rent a Girlfriend.
Oh yeah, Rent a Girlfriend. Yeah, there's
Rent a Girlfriend's a set?
yeah, that's
Okay, here we go.
Do you need to know more?
I can't remember if this was a pro. Oh, okay, here we go. You it's kind of
I'll put this up on the screen.
poorly
for-
disguised for behind a little signature, but like yeah, stuff like that. I'm just like
Okay.
yeah.
It's
That-
not- it's
I don't know. I'm
sexualized,
trying
yeah.
to think of
Yeah, I see.
But it's sexual. I think that I'm
Yeah, that's not
interpreting here.
very tasteful. Look, it
No,
doesn't
it's
it doesn't it doesn't float my boat.
No,
I li-
but think of the difference between
I
like
like a little bit more meat on the bones, but
yeah. I mean, I also like them to be of legal age.
yeah, exactly.
yeah. So that's
my
what I was about to say.
primary
So, like
concern.
Magic and Flesh and Blood, the art's more mature, full
Yes,
stop.
absolutely.
Gore and stuff. So when you have any like sexualized female character, the Fab doesn't have much sexualized.
Yeah, I can see what they're doing there.
But there's difference when it's like the girl's 12 in the anime, but it's sexualized.
But it's
I get
okay,
what-
John, because she's actually a 12,000-year-old vampire. That's
If
how
you
they
say so.
justify it.
Okay.
Look, it's not just because the characters like it doesn't mean that's why people play it or anything. I'm sure it's just part of the culture.
I mean, speaking of art, I find it, and this has always been kind of a mental block for me, I find it really hard to play a game competitively when I don't like the art of the cards that I'm playing.
I would have the same issue.
Agreed.
So, for example, the reason I don't play Brutes is because I just don't like the artwork.
But no, see, I agree with that. The art style is not appealing to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate the artistic complexity of creating that artwork, but to me, it's just not what tickles my pickle. Whereas
Yazzie.
stuff like
Yazzie.
stuff like Prism, I find the auras, the yellow auras in particular, that stained glass cathedral style. I think it's very, very pretty.
Ode to Wrath and
really, really nice. Yeah, Ode to Wrath and Parable in particular, I think very nice artwork. Dory, I'm also on board with.
Yeah.
Lexi, I think is just, there are some nice pretty colors there.
No, but it's thematic, right? Like it's sure you need to like, and they've done a good job in Fab with the light and dark stuff, like good and it's not good and bad. James sort of explained that recently in an interview. It's like there's no good and bad. It's Chain's perspective is that Solana's the enemy. Like do you know what I mean? Like we might look at it different, but
and I think it's good that in Fab as well, because like I said, this has been an issue for me in some other games where I didn't want to play the best deck because I just hated the artwork so much, and that crippled how well I was doing, particularly in Magic. But in Fab, I have always found a deck that is top tier or close to it that I've been able to play competitively and still enjoy the artwork. Like, you will never see me play Viserai because I don't like how some of the cards in Viserai look.
Right now, I'm not completely sold on Dromai, but by God, the art is sick.
The marbles are amazing.
It's full rarity.
Yeah.
And Prism's one of those too. It's just, even if you're not playing it, it's so cool to collect all the rare ones.
Yeah. I'm very lucky that Prism, which is definitely my favorite deck in the game, is also very artistically, very, very pretty deck. And
it's not just the sexy librarian; it's everything
Right,
else.
exactly.
I understand.
I used to be a librarian.
Oh, here we
Back
go.
in
Well,
high
let's keep cruising. So, primary school, high school,
Yeah.
competitive TCGs. You're
Sure.
all about that.
Yeah.
Finished school,
Yeah.
started university.
Okay.
Okay, because you're actually retired.
Semi. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that in a second. So, your profession outside,
Yeah, I
law.
mean, my background's in finance and law.
Okay.
I'm still sort of figuring out exactly where I'm. Like, I've worked for insurance firms and law firms and things like that in the past, but I really enjoy card games, and I'd very much like to do something with card games that no one has done before, career-wise. Which is this is some hot news for you.
Oh,
my
give it to me.
absolute dream with card games by far, and it doesn't just stop at card games, it extends to games as a whole, is I would love to formalize the education system around games in a much better way than it's done right now. So you can go and get a degree in, game design, but it's basically just a coding degree.
Yep.
Card designers don't have degrees in card design. It's not something that you can go to university and get a bachelor of TCGs. You can't go to a university and get a bachelor of, PlayStation. Stuff like that doesn't exist. But there's clearly a demand for it. I mean, gaming is the largest growing industrial sector by a significant margin year to year.
It's outgrowing the the movie industry. It's outgrowing that. Yeah,
hugely so. And it's predicted, some economists predict it to be potentially, one of the top 3 industry sectors by 2050. And potentially even earlier than that.
Yep.
But there's no one who has a place where you can go and get a diploma and learn how to write,
a game.
How to write a game, essentially.
Because it's a complex storytelling is very important. Maths is very important. Game mechanics and balance are very important, which are also maths. But I think the people that do well are creative but have a very good grasp of maths.
Yeah, and I think...
But I'm sure there's plenty of game designers with a great imagination and not a good grasp on maths.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, a lot of people get promoted into a position where they are now a game designer or something like that. But at their heart, they're just a gamer, which is fine. It's great to do the thing that you love. But if you really want to have games hit that next level, I think it would be fantastic if someone finally was like, you can come to the Phil McKay school of how to card game real good. And I mean,
I'd be your first student.
And
by the
to
way.
be honest, I mean, this extends to a bunch of other things like how to manage a team, like how to commentating for esports. There's a whole range of skills that
which,
are
by the way, are
involved.
highly paid skills. Like
Very
you'd definitely
highly paid skills.
You can make millions of dollars in either one of those fields.
Yeah.
Designing the games and making them, playing them at a high level, and commentating them.
Yeah.
They're all $1 million jobs.
So
now.
is that a vision that you have?
That's
Is that something that you...
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I mean, I definitely I see the pathway. I know how to get there. It's just a matter of getting to that point. And part of the way of getting to that point right now is part of these lectures that I'm writing.
All right, let's get into that. Let's get into that, and then we'll go back to the deep stuff. Let's get into let's go back into lectures. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so this is a series of 10 lectures. The first of which I tried to upload today, but I don't understand how technology works. I'm going to try again tomorrow morning. I think my internet just
I'll give you a hand.
Yeah,
where are you going to upload?
Oh, it's all going to be uploaded on YouTube on my repurposed YouTube channel, which is just called Philpsy. Which
I'll link it.
Yeah, thank you. Essentially, it's 10 lectures about fundamentals of card games, which range from, I mean, the first episode is how to read cards. And that's not just like a comprehension, although I think that's like, definitely a few people could work on reading comprehension in card games. But
I'm one of them.
Absolutely.
I don't read my cards. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's one of my fatal mistakes. I do something and then I read the card and go, shit, it doesn't actually work that way.
I've got some Aussie bites if you...
Yeah, because it's you can't... I learned very quickly, you can't skim read.
You can't.
No, you can't. Yeah.
You can't gloss. You have to actually between every full stop or hyphen or whatever, get a good understanding of what that first bit says.
So are these lectures, do we see your face? Are you reading to how they...
So they'll be done as... you won't see my face. Okay. I'll have... essentially you'll just be able to listen to them, but there'll also be some graphics on screen which you can look at for further clarification, zooming in on card effects and things like that.
Yeah.
So starting off with like how to read cards, but not in the comprehension sense, like how to what are the important things to look at on a card. Starting from there, going all the way to finally building your first deck, and then even the last 2 episodes will be about game psychology. When you're playing at a competitive event, what do you need to think about? How do you actually need to play properly?
Can I write the lecture about not raging?
I think you'll find I'm actually an expert on that.
John can write the lecture on not scooping to your friends to guarantee their time.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah.
shit. We'll get to that later. Sorry. Continue.
But yeah, I think it's just something that kind of existed more in the past. I think, we had things like Patrick Chapin, where whatever you think about him as a person, what he wrote with Next Level Magic and Next Level Deck Building is some very good theory that a lot of people have never thought about. Even top players have never thought about this sort of stuff. And it's very easy to make your game better by just thinking about these very, very small things. And if you even only take 5% of what I say in these lectures and add that to your game will improve a substantial amount. And I can genuinely promise that everyone will find something that's of use to them. Doesn't matter how good you are. And the reason I say that is just because even if you know all of it, it's good to have a refresher. A lot of this is just, I've read just everything. You used to have to get this stuff from subscription magazines.
That's right.
Right? This is mid-2000s, even earlier than that. And if you didn't get it, then you had... I don't know how you could find it if you didn't get the magazines back then. And people were writing articles behind paywalls on various websites. If you didn't have those articles, you weren't paying back then. Those articles are gone now. You cannot find them anymore. And some of that stuff was really, really good info. And unfortunately, some of it's still available, but it's behind a paywall that no longer works and you just can't access it. So I always loved reading all of that theory. Why is this card better? Why is... a 2-cost card that does 3 damage better than a 3-cost card that does 4 damage, things like that.
That does confuses me.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely
because it's easy to go.
Maths.
That's 1 for 6. I should take that instead of that 1 for 3. Even when you read the text on a card, it's hard to, and synergies.
Yeah,
very hard to tell what works with what, in the scope of a deck.
Absolutely.
That's why I net deck. I can't.
Yeah.
I can build a Dory deck now because I've built all of them, and now I can see what you're going to replace with what. But every other deck, I have to just go back to someone else.
It's even something as simple as why is Snatch played competitively, but Wounding Blow, the 0-cost 4/3, Do you guys know the card I'm talking about?
Is that
Yeah.
wounding
Wounding blow or something like that? It's
Is
the
that
generic.
when your health is lower?
No. It's just the generic, no text on it. 0 cost, deals 4, blocks for 3 from
Right.
the first set of the game.
Okay.
Right? Pitch is red. Okay. 0, 4, 3. So like, why is Snatch played competitively?
Well, I mean,
But
other
that-
than it drawing a card.
Okay, but why is drawing a card better than 1 block? Like things like that. Like there's
Sure.
an actual mathematical reason behind it. But a lot of people, very correctly so,
Take
can probably
Snatch.
say, yeah,
But they don't
Snatch
know
is better
why
than
they're
the other
taking
one.
Snatch
right?
over,
And they
yeah.
just say, oh, it draws a card. But like, why is drawing a card good? Right? So
Yep.
there are very like minute things like that, which you don't need to know. But if you do know, it then makes it so that when the next set comes out, you know what you're looking for already.
Probably helps in draft a lot.
Absolutely helps
Yep.
in draft,
To
right?
be able to like pick up values of a card.
I think a great example as well is like, why is Life for a Life, which is a basically Scar for a Scar with extra text that costs 1 more.
Yep.
Why is that not played, but Scar for a Scar is played? Is it just because it costs 1 more? Why is 1 cost so important? Like these are all the questions that I want people to start asking themselves when they watch or listen to the content that I'm putting out. And it would be great for me if anyone just gets a small benefit out of that, because there are so many things that I think have never been compiled in this way. And I'm not keeping it just to fab. I'll be using examples from every game that I've ever played or that I've ever seen. And they're all coherent. You'll understand them even if you haven't played the game. It's because some examples are just better proven with simpler cards in other games. Fab is a very complicated game. When it comes to any given card has so much information on it. I mean, you compare, like, even if you haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh, everyone knows what Pot of Greed does, right? You don't know what Pot of Greed does?
No idea.
Okay, it's very simple. It just says draw 2 cards.
Right.
Okay.
That's very easy to understand, right? Whereas you look at a Fab card, you look at Gorganian Tome, for example, it just says draw 1 card, but it's way more complicated than that.
It is.
Because it's draw 1 card, but it can't pitch, and also
And
it
it
can't block.
and you can only have one of them in the deck. And if
Right.
your opponent has 1 in the graveyard, you
Then it
draw
draws
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, on one hand, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pot of Greed's banned. We know why it's banned because of the mechanics of that game. It makes it a banned card. Why is Gorg Tome acceptable as a power level in this game?
And mediocre in this game, in most decks.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different micro considerations to have, and I think it would be great, and I'm happy to be that person for someone to go out there and really look at a game from a very critical perspective. And I think there are certain things that the designers are thinking of when they're designing their cards. There are certain things that they know about the design process that have never been shared with us. And you can reverse engineer some of that stuff if you think about it closely enough. If you really get down to the nitty gritty, you can kind of figure out what are the golden formulas that LSS is using. You can't figure out all of them, of course, but you can get pretty damn close. And when you can figure those out, it just adds this level of depth and complexity that I really love. It's, kind of the difference between, cooking out of a packet and then understanding why you put those ingredients in there.
Sure.
And where those flavors come from. And that's what I love about card games so much. It's just that inherent complexity from so many moving parts and so many great minds in the background trying to come up with something that's just a piece of art.
Can you rotary learn a fab? Okay, can like, you know what that means? Okay,
Yeah.
explain rotary learn. You bright mind. Grew up in selective schools. You know all about that. Academic rotary learning. Basically learning how to go to tutoring to learn how to not so much learn the content but learn the exam.
Yeah.
Can you do that with a TCG? Can you rotary learn a TCG, or does it take a higher mind
I
to
think-
become great at a TCG?
I have a good example of that.
Yeah, and I think I'm about to give the same one. Which is-
100%. There's a lot of current national or like high level players. I think I'm thinking of Tarek Patel, but I think he was already a Magic Pro when he won Fab, but he jumped in, built a red line briar deck and won. I don't think he had a good grasp of the mechanics or an in-depth view of the game. I think he just had enough theory that he could see it.
Sure. I think you can definitely...
But you can also download Hayden Dale's deck and
yes.
win a Pro Quest.
And
That's happened.
It
It
depends
happened
as
at
well, though.
Chromatic, more or less.
Yeah. But it depends on the deck, I think. So, like, if someone copies, like, my Prism that I won at PQ Canberra in for the first series of PQs.
That was, yeah.
People copy that deck and they're like, this is crap, right? This doesn't work. On the other hand, Paul, what are your favorite 3 colors? Are they blue, green, and yellow? Congratulations, you're a Starvo main. It's like it's very easy to just pick up Starvo
Now, and you
when
can
it
tell
existed.
because the Michael Hamiltons of the world who can pitch stack went nuts with that deck, like what they could do. But at the raw level, you pretty much give that deck to anybody, and in the right field with a little bit of luck, make day 2 anyway.
Yeah, you can flowchart certain decks.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like Rotary Learn, I'm basically getting at. Is there a list of rules, or is there a set of exercises that someone can do to become a great player? Or does it take more than that? Does it take some sort of intuition or some brilliance that you can't quantify to really get good at a TCG? Or is there a curriculum or something that you can set out that can get someone to the next level?
So there's actually a really interesting psychological theory about this. So this comes from, God, now I've forgotten the author. But anyway, essentially what it is there's a pyramid. And there's 4 tiers on the pyramid. And different people label them different ways. I label them, I say the bottom tier is called unconscious incompetence. And it's where, usually when you just start doing something, it's not just TCGs, it could be cooking, it could be running, whatever. And it's where you don't know just how bad you are. You have no clue how trash you are at the game. You get up to the next tier. The reason we use a pyramid is because there are fewer people in every tier as we go up. The next tier is conscious incompetence, right? Is where you finally start to realize, yeah, I'm actually kind of bad at what I'm doing. And that's when you start learning. Once you hit that next tier up, exactly. Once you realize that, that's when you can actually start to really improve. You usually need to kick off your ass to get from the bottom to the third tier up. Then you get to the second tier, which is conscious competence. And this is what a lot of people say in academics, or, especially they ask surgeons about these sorts of things, is exactly how good you are, right? You know exactly where you sit in the leaderboard, you know exactly how good you are at heart surgery, you know exactly how good of an author you are, so on and so forth. And you can actually quantify that. Then there's a level above that, which is unconscious competence. And this is a level which you can't actually teach. So this is like, some people call it talent.
I would call that reps.
Or you have a gift. I don't necessarily
for a lot of things, though, it's reps. If you have some base talent,
I think generally, so the theorem behind this one is that is something that you can't get from reps. You can get the conscious competence. You can improve your conscious competence,
right,
with repetition, becoming better and better at that. Some people just have a knack for something. Like these are your, Roger Federers or Miles Davis or Chick Corea. Gordon Ramsay's, the people like this who are just so stellar at something, and there's just something they've got that, special primordial ooze that led to them being born was just different. I definitely think there are so many things that you can teach people, but when you say like learning by rote, I kind of visualize just like, I give you a flowchart and then you go and play, right? I think that's a little different to, say following someone's Patreon or YouTube or something and actually learning from them. I don't think that's rote at that point. I think that's, you've actually gained a level of skill. And if you take the flowchart away, you can still do it. But yes, 100% in any field, there is always going to be someone who is just exceptionally talented, exceptionally good in some way. It may not even necessarily be playing. And I think like I'm definitely much better at things that are not playing card games that are still related to card games. Like when it comes to deck building and theory and cracking formats and teaching other people to be good, coaching other players, I'm very, very proud that in particular Fu and Ryan Bell, who are 2 players who I've played a lot with, especially when they were not quite as good at the game, have now become exceptionally good players. I haven't gotten better, right? But that's where my skill lies. Some people are just ridiculously good at playing the game. They can just execute so well.
And they can't build a deck to save their
life.
Life.
Sometimes they're terrible deck builders. In fact,
very good decision makers, though.
Yeah, they can
like that
pilot
flow
what's given
chart
to them.
for them. Immediately, they just
understand.
Yeah.
Right. And some people are definitely on that level. And I think if you are on that level, you don't know until you just kind of break through one day.
I'd equate that, like, just tell me if I'm wrong, Phil, when you were speaking about that top tier, You know, when I hear that, I can use the analogy, you know, in sports, particularly in boxing, where you can't teach someone to be a hard puncher.
Right.
They either, you know, you can be a heavy, like you either are a heavy puncher or you're not. You can teach everyone the techniques, how to, you know, shift your weight from your back foot to your front foot, how to turn your hips, how to, you know, follow through with your punches. You can teach them everything. Get fitter, get stronger. But some people just have a heavy hand.
Absolutely.
I don't know what it is. They just have it. They've just got it. Would you compare that to the same thing with that top tier?
Yeah, I agree.
TCGs?
Absolutely. I think a great example, if you want to use boxing, is, you know, no one is going to say that Bruce Lee was not a phenomenal fighter. Mike Tyson is also a phenomenal fighter. If you put Bruce Lee and Mike Tyson in the ring together when they were at their primes, I love Bruce Lee, but he would get absolutely fucking destroyed. Why? Because Mike Tyson, at his prime, was an animal. This guy just had something, without turning this into the Joe Rogan podcast, right?
No,
Am I Joe Rogan in this?
Yeah, I think you are.
Bold short.
Mike Tyson was a freak.
He was an absolute
I
animal.
literally today watched a Instagram short of him explaining like how much he got bullied. He used to be the bitch, and then he's like, he was asking because it still confuses him. He's like, how was I the bitch growing up? Get beat up, anyone could do anything to me, and then a few years later, I'm the baddest motherfucker in the world.
Right, and he just had that
And he goes,
in him.
I'd just go in the ring and I would become an animal. Like he couldn't explain.
Dude,
he still can't.
When he was 15, he was sparring 21-year-olds and knocking
crazy.
them out. He was knocking out professional
do you know what I was about to tell
21-year-olds
you?
when he was 15.
This
the guy was
this
a freak.
is my
he was a
input
freak.
to your lectures.
Yeah.
Because I do. This is something I believe in. I did jiu-jitsu competitively. I don't have a killer instinct. Like, I don't have some daddy issue where I get fucking hatred and want to kill you if you hit me. You know what I mean? Some people have that, like, they snap.
The haze.
It's like, you hit them in the face and then they kill you because that's just how they're wired. I didn't have that. I literally did the best, like, this is no exaggeration, the best performance I ever did in jiu-jitsu was a gold and a silver. I literally, before going in, I'm like, kill him. I had to go in thinking, don't like fucking go for points or like survival mode. Like, because for me in jiu-jitsu, I'd consider a win not tapping. Like, if you could go 5 minutes and not make me tap, I win because I'm not even trying to tap you. I had to go for like, no, like grab him by the throat and make him tap. And I did. But it's very, like, I got to dig deep, very deep. Maybe it's lack of trauma in my life. I don't know. But I really have to dig deep to get that, like, rage or the fighter instinct. I think a lot of that subliminal or subconscious stuff is more emotional than talent. Like, so I think if you really, like, if the weight of you winning is pretty heavy and you've put in the reps, you have more chance of winning most things than someone who doesn't care or has won before and has less hunger. Like, I think there's an emotional subconscious level that plays in.
Do you think that emotional subconscious thing that we tap into for, say, physical prowess in that sort of sport, does it translate to the TCG world?
Absolutely. It translates to anything that has to do with any level of skill. I mean, why is Magnus Carlsen the best chess player in the world? Because he's a fucking freak. This guy is just superhuman, right? Even chess computers sometimes don't understand what he's doing. And then a couple of years later, they go, oh, actually, no, we get it.
Yeah.
Same in card games. There are definitely going to be times, and I don't know if we've even actually seen this human being yet. But there's someone out
Nick
there.
Butcher.
Is it Butch?
I don't know. that guy's a freak.
Yeah. Nick
player.
Nick definitely has some moments where he just like does some stuff, and it's very impressive, right? And there's no clear logic sometimes behind it, but it just works. And you know, maybe those people are out there who like, you know, those
prodigies or what's the other word?
You know,
yeah,
those legendary Super Saiyans who are just out there hiding.
I mean, our experience of that recently would have been Jason Chung at the calling, like piloting his deck, helping two other decks, winning the thing.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Do you know
right?
what I mean? Like, did he win? No, he didn't win.
Top something.
Yeah, he
top
topped.
4?
Like, that's crazy. To be that good that you can not just pay attention to your world-class performance. I think he went 11-1, which is the best record in the room, was 11-1. Yep. 3 players got 11-1. Shout out to our teammate, my teammate, Paul's friend. One thing, I'll give you an example. I watch like weird documentaries on YouTube. The powerlifter, deadlift, whatever the guy did, he'd plateaued at like 500 pounds or whatever stupid number he was lifting. The way they got him over was like not like hypnotism, but his psychologist got him to imagine his kids being in a car accident. And then he uses that now, and that was the only way after years of not getting the world record, he got the world record, is before he lifts, he imagines his kids are pinned under a car. And the last lift he did, like literally blood's trickling down his nose, and he lifts like 50 something kilos more than he's ever lifted in his life.
That's actually interesting. Like that tapping into that psychology, like, you know, I know even for TCGs, like there has been matches that I've gone into, and before the match, I've just told myself, I'm not fucking losing this match. Like literally.
And you know you're not going to lose.
I'm not going to lose this match. Like how much does that play into TCGs? How, you know, I'm very intrigued about this. I'm very intrigued about this whole mental state and having an attitude. Like, you know, like people like, I keep telling you, how are you, mate? Matty Folks, you know what I mean? Like ex-MTG player. People say what they want about Matty, but you know, the guy, you know, he has that winning mindset.
Yep.
You know, he really goes to these tournaments just thinking he ain't going to bloody lose, you know. Whereas most games I go into, I'm just thinking, win, lose, who cares? You know, it's probably why I lose so much. But, you know, how much does that have to do with the mindset and really forging that mental frame of mind where you go into the match just thinking, no, I'm better than that person. I'm going to do everything I can to beat them. Losing's not an option. Like, is that something you touch on in your lectures?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the last two, we'll definitely look into that sort of thing. And I think I don't like using myself as an example for these sorts of things, but my PQ at Grimdark that I won I went EXO, and I already knew before I stepped in that I was going to win. Doesn't matter what my matchups were. I knew I was going to win that event. Because
did Mitch know you were going to win that event?
Well, he knew after I beat him. But I went in just like, I'm so confident on the deck that I'm playing.
I do think there's no right answer anyway.
Yeah, I think it's complicated.
I think if you put in enough, like it's literally like a flowchart. If you put in the work and the reps, your confidence will be higher.
Yes.
You'd need confidence to win. Some people put in the reps and not feel confident and win, and they gain confidence. And like I think every personality is different too. I think if you're naturally confident, that's an edge. I think if you're naturally not confident, but it motivates you to work harder, it's an edge to not be confident. It really depends on you, but then figuring out what you need to do to win. Because there's people definitely that are always defeatists. Even when they win, they go back and go, I could have done better. I could have done better. Like that type of person is. And then you got Brent Gordon, who 11-1 at the calling, similar, like has played high-level card games forever, went in there to have fun. He's like yelling scabbies, walking around with his cane, didn't care if he won or lost, and won 11-1.
Yeah.
Probably because he cared less than most of his opponents, and that was an edge for him. But I think you've got to find... 100% is no answer for everyone. That is not the same answer.
You have to find
everyone.
what works for you. And everyone has a different like positive cycle that helps. I think, so I played Star Wars Destiny. I played one event of Star Wars Destiny, which was the National Championships. And it was the first event that I ever played Star Wars Destiny, and I came top 4. I don't care about Star Wars that much. Sorry for all the fans out there. I've been forced to watch it.
That's for you, Outcast Haven.
Yeah.
I had never played the game before. It's a dice-based game. I hate dice. I try to stay away from them as much as possible. But I was testing with the best player in the country for a month beforehand. I'd built a deck that no one else was playing, and we already knew before we showed up. We were like, we're really confident we're going to do well. I knew my mate was going to do really well. He made top 4 as well. My first event ever, I made top 4 for a game that I'd pretty much never played before. And that came down to if I showed up and because I didn't know what anyone else's cards did a lot of the time, right? But I knew what my deck did, and I knew exactly what it was trying to do. And my friend had said to me, it'll work. You just have to kind of read what everyone else is doing while they're doing it, but you'll win. And that's basically what happened. But I had the confidence going in to say, well, Almo has If you guys don't know Alamo, he used to run Good Games Effing. He basically set me up with all the knowledge that I needed, and the rest of it was just having faith in myself to actually go forward and execute that game plan. If I didn't have that, then I would have spent the whole time going, oh, well, I guess I won't play the card because maybe they have some way of interacting with it. No, I just played the damn cards and rolled the dice and do this thing, and then I win. And
when you talked about the pyramid, that's something I was going to say. Subconscious incompetence is not always a disadvantage. If you're new, sometimes just knowing what you need to do and not paying attention to the opponent really helps.
Yeah, it's a good step forward.
Like, I'm serious, because you'll be winning and then you're like, oh, wait, I'm not blocking correctly, and then go in a loop of over blocking for a few weeks and losing matches that you don't, because you know what I mean? Like, it's not as simple as knowing more is not always an advantage.
You have to know what you're doing with it.
You also have to. You have to be able to process information. Most slow players in our game are slow players because they're absorbing more information than they actually need to. They're not thinking about like what they can control. They're thinking about what they can't control, like what's in their arsenal. Yeah. Don't fucking try and guess what's in their arsenal. Play the game correctly.
So this
is
actually
like, you can't. Like, if someone has a pummel in their arsenal, are you really going to block 4 more? No, then don't even worry if there's Can you block? Like, it's a easy flow chart for me, because I go, I ain't playing around a razor, because if I do, I lose. If I block, I can tell straight away, if I block with that card, I lose the game. If I have a razor, I lose the game. But the only chance of winning is keeping the card.
Yeah, play your outs. Exactly.
But a lot of people will freeze in that scenario because they're thinking of the knowledge they cannot possibly get. And then they freeze for 20 minutes thinking about a line that doesn't exist.
This is literally the reason I gave Stephen briar, even though I think he's like one of the finest minds to ever play card games.
Do not worry about your opponent.
First deck, learning core mechanics of the game. And as you said, when you played against him, he asked you about...
He asked me a very high-level question for someone who's been playing for
So this is the Google guy. This is the brain.
Because we were playing, and I go, dominate.
Rain Man.
Yeah. And he absolutely is Rain Man. Yeah.
He got, I did a dominate attack twice, 2 turns in a row. He goes, am I allowed to block with armor can I block a dominate attack with armor? He figured that out immediately, going, wait, that's a bit unfair that I can't block, right? Yeah. And I wasn't meaning to not tell him. I just I explained he can only block with 1 from hand, and I think he already knew what dominate meant. It was just it's a weird question, because most new players, you'd have to tell them they can block with armor. Yeah. He was asking, what are my other options here?
Yeah, and I think
just taking damage to the face.
That's exactly what I mean. That's a really good example of someone who clearly just has a very good brain for thinking about these sorts of things. If you look at what I was building back when Fab first came out, my decks were terrible, man.
So when did you get into Fab?
Oh, my spoiler was Goliath Gauntlet, so before the game existed. Yeah, my spoiler was literally Goliath Gauntlet.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by spoiler?
Spoiler season for Welcome to Wraith. My spoiler was...
you got given a spoiler?
I got given a spoiler. It was Goliath Gauntlet.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Where'd you spoil it?
On my Facebook page.
That's awesome.
So you have one more spoiler than Yazi? Is that what you're saying?
Yazi!
Yeah. I think, so I reached out to... I think it was Alan Hale at the time who was there, and I really liked the look of the game, and I was happy to push it because I was in a bit of a rut with TCGs, so I just won Keyforge Nationals, and that game was, and still is, I hate to say this, FFG, but that game was fucking trash, bro. It's so imbalanced.
Richard Garfield, wow.
Oh, man, that game was so busted, it's not funny. You could kill people on turn 1. You could time walk them for 6 turns in a row. That was me.
It was just a weird game. You buy something that could give you a random deck that you never can get again. It's so weird.
It was such a cool concept, and so then weird. The 15 people in the world like me who on day 1 realized that instead of just trying to crack the deck that I wanted, I would just go and find a list of cards that I wanted to be in my deck and go buy it off someone instead. Did that, rock up to Nationals with 3 absolutely insane decks and just XO'd the entire thing. I was really sick of that game because I didn't find the competitive community very good at all. FFG has a history of being a little bit shaky when it comes to organized play. And then an intern, spilled their iced tea on the algorithm and it broke. This is real, by the way. Long story, but like not something for this podcast. But I was in a bit of a rut where I didn't have a good game that I wanted to play. I wanted to, I think Good Games Epping had just closed, and I had this incredible group of friends there who we used to play Dragon Ball with, and like every Tuesday night we'd play Dragon Ball, and then 15 of us would go and get chicken and beers at the local Korean. Fantastic. Then Good Games Epping closed, and we lost that. So I was trying to find something else to play, and I heard about Fab from... honestly, I can't remember. I think it might have been an ad popped up or like a Google
They had
something.
something like a Kickstarter.
Yeah,
like
it was something like
support
that.
them directly or something.
And
right?
I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. You would have got yourself some iron rot stuff.
Okay, yeah, cool. In hindsight, I'm not a huge proponent of.
Me neither.
Yeah,
actually, in the TCG world, Kickstarters are trash.
Yes,
as a rule, they're trash.
The life cycle of the average card game is 4 to 6 years, right? Which is, in terms of investment, is not great, right? And your rags versus riches percentage is like heavily skewed towards the rags side. The vast majority of games never get past their first year, all these sorts of things. So I was interested in it, New Zealand developer, all these sorts of things. So I reached out and I said I wanted to foster the community. I ran a bunch of learn to plays. I bought a couple cases when the game came out. I still have one sitting at home of Alpha Wraith. And
Case or box?
Case. Yeah.
Nice.
We're going to open it on Fluke and Box right after this.
I'm definitely
for
not.
your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, probably not. I don't want to become an unboxing channel. But
don't do it.
Yeah, the game seemed really cool to me. I liked
this. Is
the
2019 then?
Yes, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely 2019. So I got a couple friends kind of interested in it, and we had a good time with it. I think the first legendary that I ever pulled was the cold foil. Actually, I have with me right now. This has gone so well. I have actually with me in this plastic case the first card that I ever opened from Flesh and Blood. The very first card that
So this was in your first pack?
My first pack
All right.
of Flesh and Blood
Here we go.
that I ever opened. And I brought it because I'm going to ask John to grade it for me.
Tunic.
Whoa!
First I want to show it.
Is?
I want to show. Yeah, what do you think it is?
Scabbies or Tunic is my guess.
Look, I can't. Look, a heart would be obvious if it's your first pack, but I can't say that. I'm gonna. This is an interesting one. Let's go with maybe a mask.
John?
Tunic.
I'm going to show it to Paul first.
Whoa, there we go. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. This is a beautiful segue, actually.
Yeah.
Is this magnetic or screwed?
It's mag.
Oof.
Yeah, that's pretty gorgeous.
I'll show the cam.
Yeah, it's my
Foil
E-strike
Oh.
from my first.
And at
pack.
the time, you wouldn't have had a clue what this is going to be worth or how rare it is.
No, in fact, I
there's only 400 of these, right?
400.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Foil Majestics, there's like just as many as there are hearts of each.
Yeah, so I was the first card in the first pack that I ever opened.
That's sick.
And I stuck it in this case
Yep.
because I also cracked 3 regular E-strikes, my alpha E-strikes, and I've been using them
The normal
ever
ones,
since
yeah.
then.
That's sick.
So I never bothered, shuffling this into a deck. I've just always used my other ones, and it's just been sitting here, ungraded, on my desk. And
grading it's one thing.
Yeah,
it's so sought after. But if you're going to keep it, you grade it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I tried selling it at one point, and I wasn't happy with the people who were offering and also the offers that were being given.
Yep.
So
I know someone right now that wants one.
Yeah,
I've got to deliver like $20,000 worth of cards to him at Lil
right,
anyway.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if someone wanted it ungraded, I'd definitely consider it. But it's a very important piece of history for me.
So grading it never matters.
Yeah,
because you can
I'm
always
sure.
break it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to keep it, grading is fun.
I also have another card
Whoa.
that I brought
Okay.
from the very first calling event in Australia, which I think Paul's going to really appreciate. I don't know if you've seen one of these before. I'm sure you have, or I'm sure you know of them. But
know.
this is another cool card.
Oh, whoa. Okay. How nice is that? Have you seen
Is
this
this
before?
for winning or just the promo
No,
for
this was for
turning
showing up.
Yeah.
So is that the same as we got in the...
No.
there you go, John.
Underneath. No. So I think, as far as I understand, these were only given out
Yeah.
at the first calling or
What
wave
is
of
this?
calling.
What's, man, the lighting in here.
It's the foil Reiner promo.
No, I know.
Yeah,
It's
the young-
005.
Yeah, but
is
that's the young
promo
Reiner. How's
number.
that... oh, no. Okay, that's the actual Reiner, not the young Reiner.
That
No,
is
no,
young.
it's a young Reiner. Yeah.
No, but how is that different to the young Reiner cold falls that were given out in the WCR?
This is Rainbow.
That's Rainbow.
Oh,
Much
that's Rainbow.
rarer, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, that's Rainbow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So the Rainbow's worth more than the cold.
they're harder to get, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
How many of them would be in existence?
500?
Maybe 500 each.
500 each?
Yeah.
No, like $500 each.
How many do you think there are?
Oh,
Couple of
I
hundred,
don't know how many
maybe.
events there were. Yeah, probably a couple hundred.
Wow. So
But still, it's the nostalgia of it being. Is
Yeah.
it 2019 print
I believe
or
it is.
2020?
That's 2019.
Yeah, so 2019 print foil.
Yeah, obviously, so is the Easter egg.
Remember, the game was only out for a few months in 2019,
Yeah.
so anything printed in 2019 is pretty rare.
So before we quickly, because there's a few other things I want to cover.
Okay.
Before we quickly move off the lectures, you're going to be releasing them weekly, fortnightly, monthly. How we
So
gonna do it?
ideally, the first one should be up tomorrow.
Yep.
I hope the second one will also be up on Friday because
Okay.
I want to release 2 videos at once so people, when they watch the first one, they realize that it's hot shit. They can watch the second one straight away.
Oh yeah.
And then I want to release 2 a week on Wednesday and Friday every week thereafter until, all 10 of them are out.
So about 5 weeks. Okay.
Yeah,
And then you'll
yeah.
do follow-up content after that? This
Yeah,
isn't a-
absolutely. I want to see what the response to that is initially. It's long form content, which is something that doesn't exist in a lot of card games. Or if they do, it's usually about lore rather than theory.
Yep.
So I want to test the waters and see how long form content goes. After that, I'll definitely continue doing stuff. I definitely want to help people in a more one-to-one way. I'd love to run coaching sessions that are far more in-depth. I mean, everyone's seen what happens in coaching sessions, I think, and sometimes they're a bit flaccid.
Yeah.
I'd like to, add a little bit of gusto to the
I'd love some.
To give-
I would love some rock hard
coaching.
Let me
coaching.
I'm
from
going to
Phil.
give 2
That's
examples.
what you call it. Rock hard, rock star coaching by Phillip
Two
McKay.
things to say about Philip from my perspective. You definitely make your own decks and go play them. Like you went and won 1 or 2 pro quests. You definitely top forward a couple of them or got to
top
the,
four 6.
Yeah.
I won 3.
purely on his deck, like his list. No one was playing that list. If anything, most people that looked at that list were like, "There's better." Because I think there were many top players, top content creators talking about specific Prism lists and winning with them. Yours was vastly different. And was working. But it works for you because also you know how to pilot it. But also, like we just recently, we both love Dromai to a point, and I was like, Phil, can we make like a pummel Dromai Centipede list? And hey, we spent half an hour talking. I had a list. He tweaked it for me, gave me some cards I never would have thought of in my life to put in, and I 4-0'd the next armory with it.
I love that,
he
though.
definitely because I'm a problem solver, but I don't have the I'm like a person problem solver, right?
Yeah,
Interpersonal stuff. Not like card game math synergies is much more complicated. I'm getting better, but you were like, get veiled intentions. I'm like, what is that card? And I go look at it. I'm going, wait, that fits exactly what we're trying to do here, Like
And that was the first card you showed me on Friday.
Yeah, I was like,
showed
have
me
you ever
Veiled-
seen
Yeah, you
this
showed
card?
me that. You're like, Paul, look at this
and you're
fucking
like,
card.
wait, what is it? I'm like, dude, when you're on Rhino, you want to pop my Centipede? Look at this. Pop
Yeah.
it. I'll get a free card. I'll get an action point. And then I just hit you again. It's great. And I won like 4. Look, Blitz Armory 4-0 is not great, but like that's the first time we touched that deck and it was 4-0. Like I imagine with tweaks and like if we had a Blitz calling coming up, that deck could be a nightmare for people if it was like tweaked and
I love that. And the thing that excites me most about Fab is the more sets that get released,
it's
the
so
more
open.
we're going to be able to become. There's going to be more opportunity for, in Magic, we call them rogue deck builders.
Yep.
It's very hard to have
the card pool's limited.
Yeah, it's hard to have a culture of rogue deck building when you've only been out for 18 months.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. But when your game's been out for 5-6 years, like, there is more space for these minds to play in.
And more risk for imbalance.
And there's an eternal card pool as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that adds another element, which, absolutely is a huge risk. There are cards.
They have to be, I think Fab have to be very strict on their design
Look,
policy.
Geez, even the shit you've been sending me about Bolton.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff Phil sends me about Bolton, I'm just like, what the frick is that card doing in there? Like, and you know how constrained we are with Bolton being a light warrior. Like, it's absolutely a nightmare.
I bet you there's light cards that you don't know exist.
Yeah, like
when I was putting the master set, so I was like, wait, there's a what is
like-
that?
Like you were like, but you were like, I was like Raiden Bolton, and you're like Twinning Blade,
Yeah,
like things like that. Like
yes.
it's just,
So it's a funny story about that, because that's actually when Monarch came out. I was testing the chain deck with Hayden, the Seeds chain list, and I didn't want to play chain because I don't like the artwork. I also just don't like Runeblade mechanics. Lol. No attack.
Come on.
So I really wanted to play Bolton, right? And I understood the Saber's courage thing, and I just went, I'm going to play Raiden then. And that's where the first iteration of that deck came from. As far as I know, no one was playing, like, it had even touched Bolton to that extent. And I had a really good run. I bubbled out of Top Cut. I was really close to just taking it all home with Raiden Bolton. And I was playing the weird stuff. I was playing, this is back when Plunder Run was legal. I was playing like 9 Plunder Runs before it was cool. I was playing the 3 Twinning Blades, right? Well,
So we're talking stuff. Like Raiden Bolton with warrior cards in it.
when I first met
Monarch
you.
release,
When I first met you.
Yeah, exactly. Playing Braces of Belief as my only arm piece because all I wanted to do was flip a red off the top of my deck and hit my opponent for +2. That was a great time. I really loved that back then. And I think coverage really exploded after Monarch.
Yeah.
So those of us who were like, no one knows about my crew Dory, right?
Yeah.
No one's seen that because the coverage didn't exist back then. No one was playing competitive events back then.
And if they were, it was like webcam and stuff, not...
Right, yeah. So there was innovation happening back then from a lot of people in the community.
Unified Decree Dory.
What's that?
Unified Decree Dory.
Hayden was working on that for a while, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
To this day, if I talk to Hayden about Dory, he's like, put Unified Decree. And I'm like, dude, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's close. It's real close.
It works if you pitch an eye.
Sure. But yeah, I think there's so much space in the game. It's really exciting. I'm very much looking forward to them LSS. I want them to push the boundaries a little bit more. I worry that they felt burned by the community during Everfest. Which some of that
Why
I think
Everfest?
is just
Why?
Starvo.
Okay.
Some of that was justifiable for sure. I think there's still incredible potential in the game. I think there are cards that are totally unexplored.
Yeah.
That have been unexplored for the entire game. Which
there's a whole
will be scary.
Hero build types. What would you call it? Like an archetype.
Yes, archetypes.
That just isn't built like that. No one, like you said, like Raiden Bolton's never shown up anywhere in any like competitive, like you'd recognize. Go, oh yeah, like that calling top 4 Raiden Bolton. It just doesn't exist.
No,
but it's not far from viable.
Yeah, it sucks that Raiden's core. Bolton's core mechanic is inherently bad. Yeah.
Yep.
But it's so close.
So most things in Fab, including like Azalea, it's close. It's not like
Azalea is super close.
Yeah,
you would not believe.
Like
how
even
close that deck
Data
is.
Doll, which is considered Azalea and Data Doll considered like by far the worst heroes in the game. She's not far. Like when she high rolls you lose
Who,
to
Azalea or Data Doll?
Azalea too. Like when they get lucky, you see what they can do. What they don't have is consistency. Both of them don't have consistency.
Yeah.
Like Data Doll can't block. She has 3 cards. She's got a pitch. But man, when she goes off and she's got like in one turn 4 items on the thing, you're like, do I just die next turn? And then you swing at them and they got like 8 ward basically from dissipation. It's crazy.
My second ever armory. I went to Decked Out Gaming up there at Brookvale and I paired into this guy. He was playing Azalea. And I was playing the Precon Blitz Bolton Raid. I didn't even have Raid and I was playing Hatchets.
Yeah, Hatchets, yeah.
And I got trounced. And I literally thought Azalea was the truth. At
Azalea
the
is
time,
the
being a
truth when
noob,
she
I
goes
was like,
off.
this deck's broken. How good is this deck? And then like a week later, everyone's telling me, no, Zali's trash. I'm like, what? I've got PTSD. How bad this guy
Did you
beat
get hit
me
with Red in the Ledger?
Oh, yeah. This guy was
like,
absolutely...
That's probably... Is Red in the Ledger one of the strongest cards in the game?
I think Red in the Ledger is the best card in the game.
It's like,
but it's just...
In a vacuum, Red in the Ledger is one of the best cards in the game, for sure.
I think I would put it as... It's up there with like Arclight Sentinel, Sonata...
And Glint the Quicksilver.
Glint's pretty damn good.
Yes.
Man.
Mathematically, like the people
Glint
that
is
have
so
put the
overspec.
game in a spreadsheet...
Yeah.
And they've gone the value of cards. There's a blue, pitches for 3, gives go again, replaces
Draws a card.
itself.
Yeah.
It's got the 4 ideal... Oh, it costs 0.
Yeah.
Are they as
And it
good
blocks
as
3.
Romping Club, though?
Yes. I know. What's the best weapon? Like, the best weapon in the game is not Romping.
Luminaris or Rosetta Thorn. Yeah.
Luminaris and Rosetta. Rosetta for sure. But Luminar... I mean, what would we call the Dromai weapon then?
It's a poor excuse for Luminaris.
But it's a common.
Yeah.
Imagine when they make a weapon with a majestic weapon for allies. It just might be busted.
I honestly think Azalea is 1 equipment and 2 cards away from being like potentially the best deck in the game. It's ridiculous how good its like core gameplay loop is because I've built the deck about as well as I think I can. I don't want to put too much time into it, right? Like I love deck building, and this is something that I had to learn over time. Sometimes you just have to step away. Yeah. Right? I've already built the Prism deck. I've already built the Oldhim deck. I've built the Viserai deck. I'm picking one of those 3 to play at Pro Tour. Spoilers, it's not Viserai.
Are you going to Lille?
Yeah, I'm going to Lille. I'm going to Lille.
Oh, you're going to Lille.
He's booked.
Okay, so you're qualified for Lille.
Yeah. I won ProQuest Grimdark.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Thanks, Mitch. And that was honestly like.
So what are you going to play?
Oh, okay. I. This is not
Prism.
me.
He'll
Just
be
like
on
trying
Prism.
to. No. This is not me trying to hide it, but it's either Prism or Oldhim. I think unequivocally those 2 are the best decks in the game right now. I think there is a rogue out there that beats potentially those decks. I don't know what it is. Maybe someone else does.
You wouldn't try the Dromai Spice?
Dromai is cool, but I think like John has seen what I've done with Prism, and it's very scary.
Dromai is fun. For sure.
Super
For
fun.
me, more fun than Prism.
Yeah.
It's also dragons. Like, you're summoning these big dragons. You're like, hey, let me look at your hand. Yeah. Hey, your armor melts. But the thing is, Prism, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of reps on Prism.
Yeah.
And you know what works and doesn't. See, we're talking quantitative. Like, people know what's good on Prism. They know how debilitating Arclight Sentinel is. Luminaris, they know. And the permanence, you can build this board state that becomes impossible to lose with. No one's gotten there with Dromai.
So is your Prism deck changed much in the last month or 2?
Yeah, I think Uprising introduced some cards that are absurd. To rattle off a couple, which I think people know about, I'll say Oasis Respite is ridiculous. I think...
Yellow? For you
No, red.
You play red? Yep.
Yeah.
He's playing a defensive Prism.
Yeah. I think Fjendel's Fighting Spirit is an incredible
yellow
card. It's a great yellow. My biggest issue with Prism previously was that in the mirror match, you had this incentive to play Red Heralds, and then you would just get high rolled by your opponent top decking their objectively terrible Herald Poppers because they'd be playing like Raging Onslaught or something.
With no text in the box.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is a horrible card. You're only winning because you top decked it. And that was a real feel bad moment for me when it's happened to me in way too many times. Now you can actually play a card like Fendel Fighting Spirit, which is not just good into Prism. It's also really good into Ninja.
Yeah.
It's also and it's
and
not,
Runeblade.
It's great into Ninja, great into Runeblade.
You can throw it at a Rosetta Thorn.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's that. There's that. All you got. There's Fogdown.
See, people don't... Fogdown's selling for like 10 cents. People are stupid.
Fogdown is so good.
Fogdown kills Runeblade, kills Warrior. What else does it kill?
Runeblade, Warrior, it's pretty reasonable into like random rogues.
Actually, it really does hurt Fi.
Brute.
Yeah, it's
Brute.
definitely got into Brute, locks your barrage
Barrage.
beat
You
down,
can't
locks your
barrage
Blood
them.
Rush Bellows.
Yep.
Leviah, same thing as well.
I think Brute will just roll Scabbies if they see it, right? If they high roll you, they high roll you. That's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, if they do, then it's like, okay, so you have
But
to
they're
gamble
risking
one more time,
giving
right?
you a turn back.
Yeah, they're risking chewing up their gambler's gloves for a fog down turn.
Exactly.
That would feel bad.
So yeah, it's good into that matchup as well.
Very good against Dromo.
It's
Very good against
really
Dromo.
good into Lexi.
Yeah.
For sure. They pretty much always want to start.
It's
their turn.
actually like it's
just it's
impossible
so
to
good.
play
Yeah.
against, play around a fog down.
Thing is, it costs 3, right?
That's pretty fine.
Yeah, on your
In,
Prism deck, it's fine. Yeah,
I think in most Prism decks,
correct. You
it slots
can't.
in.
You can't. If you're gonna do like put a 3 cost in on most decks, you're going like unmovable.
Sure.
But fog down's like in a deck where you're already going to be running a lot of defensive reactions and
Yeah.
stuff. It's not that punishing to have a 3.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
because you're playing like Prism's playing a
heavy.
3 cost, potentially still swinging with auras or whatever.
Yeah.
Does fog down have go again?
No, but you just play it at the end of your turn.
Yes, sure. So
Yeah.
it's the turn finisher. Yeah.
So let's talk a bit more about this Pro Tour before we go back in time to your first Pro Tour,
Okay.
or maybe New Jersey. So draft format.
Yeah.
How are you hoping to approach that for this Pro Tour?
So I really like draft as a concept. I really hate playing draft. Full stop. And the reason I hate playing draft, and this is going to come across a little bit harsh, is that most people don't know how to play draft. And I'm not just talking about, oh, you accidentally passed an additional card and now it screws up the entire draft. I think,
Guilty.
huh?
That never
Yeah.
tilts me though. Mistakes
Yeah, that
happen,
I'm
yeah.
just like, okay, you screwed up.
What was
It's-
my first question? Do you despise dumb people? yes, he
No,
does.
he's about to get into it.
Sorry.
We talked about this because we went to Jolt in Canberra.
Yeah.
That was a bit tilting.
So my biggest issue with some draft formats, not all draft formats, right, is that if you are sitting at a table where some people understand what the good cards are, what you should take, or quote unquote you're supposed to take, and some people don't, it can end up where you try to play the draft in a certain way. And I don't mean taking cards. I mean playing the man, not the board, right? Because drafting is 2-tiered. There's, first of all, taking cards that you want to put in your deck, and there's also trying to force the people around you to take certain other cards or force them to not take certain cards, right? And when people don't necessarily understand both of those layers of the draft format, it can make it that sometimes you get punished for doing the right thing.
That's
And
how I felt at Jolt.
that can feel really, really bad. So a really good example of this is, sorry, Paul. Yeah, go.
No, to continue.
Okay.
Continue.
So a great example of this, and let me make this very clear. I'm not talking just about people like Paul who force a hero every single time they play.
Oh, we'll get into
right?
that.
I'm
Yeah,
talking-
because some LSS employee told him to. That was
yeah,
it.
fine. I mean, I'm not talking about that, okay? I'm not talking about that exclusively.
Fucking
I
nuisance.
mean, I was at a draft pod, the second tier draft pod at the most recent Road to Nationals, sorry, where, and this was not the low bracket draft pod, this was the high bracket draft pod, where there were 2 sets of people directly next to each other that were on pairs of heroes. So there was Icelander, and then Dromai
Yeah.
next to each other. That is so... It's like, okay. If
It skews the draft.
If people are randomly taking cards, that should not happen, right? So then when you're... if you just blind picked every card face down for the entire draft, mathematically, it's very unlikely for that to happen.
But isn't the chaos and the chaoticness of that is what makes draft special?
Yeah, that's what's so fun if I'm sitting around with my mates at home and we're just like having a great time, right? I love that. And then I can, turn to my mate on this side and say, "You're such an idiot. I can't believe you kept taking all my Dromai cards, you absolute monkey. I'll never subscribe to your channel again."
But if you were playing a draft heads up, seeing the cards, and it wouldn't be a draft.
But-
then everyone would
But
draft
it is heads
the
up.
hero.
I'm not
No,
saying
but
everyone needs to see
But
the
everyone
cards.
would then draft the hero they're supposed to be drafting, therefore it wouldn't be draft. It's just like, I hear that in poker. I've played poker with like these so-called expert poker players, and they lose, and they're very good poker players, and their excuse is, because no one here knows how to play properly.
That's true, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying it's not true, but what's my point? My point is like...
Can I tell you
Yeah, go
what
for
my
it.
point is? And
Go for it.
Okay.
Go.
What the poker player is trying to explain to you. is in 100 matches,
Yes.
they will win way more than the person that won at that table.
Of
The reason
course.
that person won at the table was literally didn't know how to play the game. Draft right now feels like that, where you're doing the right thing. You're even accepting a signal from your left, and you're going, you know what? You passed me 5 blue wizard cards. I'll go wizard. I'll take, I don't want to, but it's open. And then what actually happened is the person took the complete wrong pick one. In theory, again, I think, and sorry if people get insulted by this, I think what I'm seeing right now in the draft season, who's winning and top 4ing and top 8ing, are nowhere near the best sealed limited players that we have.
But we don't know that yet.
Of course we know that.
No, we haven't
Because
been
there's
playing
been
draft.
10 there's been how many sets that these people have all done well? Then you get a draft that's a bit more generic and open, and people are forcing or misreading signals completely, and you just get look,
I think this is the most prolific set that people are drafting since I've been in the hobby.
Yeah.
I've been here since Monarch. I'm going to tell you right now, more people are drafting Uprising than any other set.
well, we
I've
kind
been
of
here
have
since.
to as well.
Yeah, but that's great. So that's probably why you're seeing that. Speaking from experience, I was a decent Magic draft. Okay, it was my favorite way to play the game. Okay, I love drafting. I drafted all the time. The way that I approach it is, especially early in a format, I'd always force an archetype. Okay, not for that long though. It was different with Magic. You had a lot more archetypes. You weren't limited to 3 heroes. You could be limited to 8 or 9 archetypes. Usually, generally, the way people ranked how entertaining a draft was for Magic was how many archetypes you could draft. So the more depth you had, people would view it as a better draft experience. So I would generally get intrigued by different archetypes, and I'd force the shit out of them. For usually only about maybe 4 or 5 drafts. It was the way that I learnt how to draft that deck, is I'd force the shit out of it.
Yeah.
That was harder to do in Magic, okay? Now, this is the first draft set I've taken serious in Fab, by far. And just by chance, the first hero I drafted was Fire. Not because I forced it, was just the first hero that I drafted. And yes, I was with an LSS employee, and that LSS employee explained to me how I should be drafting that deck.
Yep.
So I continued to force that deck, probably for a little bit longer than I should have. But I really wanted to learn it inside out, and I'm still quite uncomfortable with Flesh and Blood. So that was my strategy, and it worked. It worked pretty well for me. Now I'm going to be. I haven't drafted since the weekend, but moving forward, my next Uprising draft, I will force another hero. Okay, I won't force it as long as Fire. I won't force 10 drafts for my next hero, but I can guarantee I'll force 4 or 5 because that's how I learn how to play the game. And I think there is merit in that approach, especially with Fab, because it's not like there's 7 or 8 different archetypes. There's 3 heroes. And don't get me wrong, you don't want to be downstream from the person next year. That's fine. But
There's definitely archetypes in this set.
there is.
Can I ask you a question,
There
Paul?
definitely is, yes.
What's your favorite MTG draft set?
Okay, I would say my favorite would be the Armand Kep block. No, that was very good. No, it was very good. It was a very good block.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Hey! It was a very good block. Asked a lot of people. A lot of people rate that higher than Innistrad.
Bro, Khans of Tarkir was
Oh, come
fucking
on,
S
man.
tier.
Come on,
S tier
man.
set, bro.
Come on,
I'm not
man.
saying it's the
Come
only,
on.
but Amonkhet block, damn man, this
All right.
guy truly is the
Look,
tallest of
Khans
Timmys.
was fine, but it wasn't better than Armand Kep block. Really?
Why don't they just call you Tall Paul?
Hour
It
of
rhymes.
devastation, it was sick, man.
He doesn't call himself tall.
All right, let's get into Watsy. So, Phil,
Okay.
you had
Oh,
some
God,
time
are we
with
talking
Watsy.
about Watsy?
Okay,
Jesus.
talk to me.
Okay.
So you had some time. What was it?
I
Were you
have
on
to
a-
say I can't say too much about this.
Were
right?
you on a work experience, or what did you do with that?
I voluntarily signed. I actually requested an NDA for very complicated legal reasons that I don't particularly want to get into, but essentially which absolved me of liability because I could not possibly have been involved with certain things that I knew were going on with the company before I signed on with them. This is very this is deep.
So you did
Deep
work for
law.
Watsy?
I did some stuff with them.
Okay.
Right? So basically, I had a very brief stint assisting WotC with some elements of card design and some elements of the process of card design, which involved advising particular people in the company. That's really all I hate to...
Hey, I like it. I love mystery.
I hate to go any further.
Hey,
but
let the audience use their imagination.
I've got a legal background, right? So there were... everyone knows that WotC has been through various paradigms and various phases. In time, some more, positively received, others less positively received, right? I never wanted to be directly associated with the company. I'm not on the company records. I was never an employee of WotC. At the time when I was
You're a
involved with
consultant.
them, sure, we can use that term, yeah. At the time that I was involved with them, I had a small hand with, a couple of elements of the design process, which I'm very proud of. And there was a point which was not too far after that, in which there was a mass exodus of a certain number of employees, which is very public knowledge. Everyone knows about this. That was the time period where I was around. It was an interesting time. I learned a lot of things.
Were you based in the States then?
No.
Okay.
No, I wasn't. I learned some good things from the people that I was talking to, the opportunity that I had there, and I don't want to talk too badly about that. Do you want to talk shit about WotC though?
Oh no, I don't. I just want to know. I just wanted to know, like we're talking, like you're passionate about games. You understand the fundamentals, and
a lot of that has come from my own work. I without putting too fine a point on it, I'd like to stress that more than anything is that a lot of the things that I have learned about card design fundamentals, card game theory, like why I can look at a card and say this is a fundamentally good card and this is not, is because of things that I have figured out and written. I have notebooks stacked with chicken scratchings of just me going absolutely insane. I used to, if you guys have ever seen that, like those things of old movies where the policeman has like stuff all over the wall and string. Yeah. So I used to do that when I was figuring out stuff for Dragon Ball and Weiss Schwarz and Keyforge as well. When I had the entire card list of Keyforge in my study on Post-it notes, and I had bits of string that I'd used that I connected everything up with in order to figure out what the ideal decks were to then go and buy those decks from people. So a lot of the stuff that I've learned is very much things that I've had to learn with no one teaching me. There was no resource available where you could learn about. A great example is, and I'm talking about this in my first episode, base rates, right? Actually, no, this is episode 2. I'm talking about base rates on cards. Base rates it's basically like, how much is a card worth? Like, why does Snatch cost 0? Basically that sort of question. How you actually figure that out retroactively without ever having been behind the curtain. I wasn't behind the curtain as a card designer when I was 10 years old. Yeah, I had to figure it out for myself. So a lot of what I want to put out there, this is my own knowledge, my own theories about things. I can't reference them because no one else has said some of this stuff before. Some of this stuff, yeah, absolutely, I'll give references. If I can say, go check out, X textbook by, John Citizen, then I absolutely will.
Just reference.
Let's put you to the test.
Okay.
So Funder, Flesh and Blood Down Under. We have quite an interesting logo.
Yeah. What is our logo, Phil?
So
it's like a yellow and purple.
Yeah. It depicts
like
two
gods
of Fab. The purple being E-Strike.
Yeah.
And the yellow being the far superior C-Strike. And there's this whole meme.
Paul, it's not even called C-Strike. It's Celestial Cataclysm.
That's
it doesn't
right.
even have the word strike in it.
Okay, all right. Settle down.
It's called C-Strike.
Settle down. So we affectionately one day were driving up to Blood Rush, our usual armory shenanigans on a Friday.
Okay.
And I'm just like, we had this shit talk back and forth. And anyway, we ended up talking about C-Strike and how great of a card it was.
Okay.
And that, in effect, it's better than E-Strike. And I talked so much shit about E-Strike that night. And then Fluke rocks up and opens up some alpha, and he's cracking foil E-Strikes like they're coming out of his ass, right?
Wow. Just one, yeah.
Okay.
And some other E-Strike. You cracked like
two. We hit 2 E-Strikes, yeah.
So, anyway, my whole point is I've always come from the the camp that C-Strike is surely better than E-Strike. And you can see C-Strike's dominating E-Strike in that graphic. That's the graphic of Thunder. From a card design perspective, Phil, tell us, which one is better, C-Strike or E-Strike? Let us know.
From a card design
tell us from and then give us your passion talk. Give us everything.
Okay.
Break them down. And you're a prison player, please.
Yeah, so...
Show me some love, Phil.
I think this is we'll have a little teaser into the first episode, because the answer to this, I think, actually links in really nicely. It's a difference of card profile versus card text. So the reason that Celestial Cataclysm is a good card is because it is a yellow light card that has a 7 in the bottom left and a 3 in the bottom right. The reason that E-Strike is a good card is because the text on it is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
modes.
It's a modal card, right? Trimodal. So from a card design perspective, I would say that E-Strike is a fundamentally more complex, more interesting, and a better designed card. And the reason for that is because you are playing it because of the text on the card, right?
But it's card disadvantage.
It's not though, right?
I don't know. I'm a Timmy. It's card disadvantage.
Card disadvantage doesn't really matter that much in Fab. But
ask a Bolton player that. Sure it does.
Yeah, well, that's because your whole deck's mechanic is card disadvantage and just generally being the bottom 3 deck in the game. I love Bolton, but it kind of sucks.
Top day 2 conversion rate for the Pro Tour. Continue.
Did it actually?
Yeah, 75%. So continue.
How many of those?
Yeah, I was going to assume there's 3.
Sample
I think there was about 7 or 10 or something.
Yeah.
Whereas like with Celestial Cataclysm, I play 3 copies of the card in Prism. I don't care what the text on that card says. I'm just playing it because it's a yellow light card that
0 for 7 go again, baby.
I don't care about the 0 for 7 go again. I don't even give a damn.
In Prism, you don't.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I think when there's 5 more light heroes, that card might be cracked.
So, like, if you want to ask from a design perspective, which one do I think is better designed? I definitely think it's Enlightened Strike.
Okay, which one's more powerful?
Which one is more powerful right now?
Yes,
I think Celestial Cataclysm is a more powerful card. But it's more powerful for the wrong reason, in my opinion. I think the reason it's more powerful has everything to do with the outside of the card, like the 4 walls rather than the home. And
like having to 3 cards and soul and stuff.
Yeah, I don't care about any of that. The text on Celestial Cataclysm could say, like, in order to play this card, like, you know, you must, I don't know, it could be some MetaZoo thing where, like, you can only play it if your opponent doesn't have pants.
You can't
or
be
whatever.
wearing pants, yeah.
Yeah. Or the text on the card could be,
By the way.
Oh, yeah, right. We all stand up.
Well, we were actually meant to do that, but we forgot.
It's all budgie smugglers. I think, Celestial Cataclysm is a more powerful card, but I think E-Strike is better designed.
Okay, great.
That's my answer. So I hope I can make both of
There's
you
one
happy.
fundamental problem with this whole argument. It says light on Celestial Cataclysm and E-Strike doesn't.
Yeah.
You can actually play E-Strike in whatever deck you want, and which, because it has 3 modes, can work in nearly any deck you want it to. Wizards can play E-Strike.
It can work well, though.
No,
not really.
That's not the deck to put it in to work well. No,
yeah.
A lot of Warriors play it. A lot of Dories play it, which makes no sense to me
Really?
either.
Doris players?
Yeah, Doris
Doesn't
play
make
it.
any sense to me.
I mean, it's fine, I guess. I think
No, but it takes cards out that are not going towards getting a counter. I think building a deck that does one thing well is usually more important than efficiency.
it definitely can be. It depends on
Like
the state of the
Bolton's a
meta.
good example.
Yeah.
When Bolton goes off, you're dead. Like triple Lumina combo, if you don't have a counter, you're dead. Like it doesn't really matter what you do.
Yeah. I mean, I beat Triple Lumina.
Yeah?
Just the other night. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. on a fatigue deck, sure, but most decks in the game that don't run as many defensive cards as you do won't get past.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about, before we wrap it up, let's talk about Pro Tour 1.
Okay.
We all were blessed that we got to go to New Jersey.
It was a great
together.
time. I had a fantastic
and some
time.
of probably my favourite memory of
Wedding
the trip
cake
was a couple of our Uber trips together. So talk to us first,
Yeah,
Phil,
Paul
about
playing the game, remember? In the backseat of the Uber.
So talk to us about first, Phil. You prepped for the Pro Tour, what deck you took, what transpired competitively, and then let's talk about some fun stuff.
Yeah. So I did most of my prep with Fu and Roy, both exceptional players. Roy, one of the greatest minds in the game. and one of the most stone cold killers at the table by far.
Yep.
Even I sometimes struggle to get a read on what's in his hand, and that's probably the only good skill that I have when it comes to being an actual player.
And he's just a great guy.
He's
He'd have to be one of the nicest guys out there.
Yeah. Leaves the rest of us looking a little bit, povertous compared to him. But he's really just such a great person. Fu is... I'm very happy to call him a very good friend of mine. He's a really great guy. His heart is like absolutely made of gold. And he just says the funniest shit.
True.
We tested a lot of stuff. I didn't want to play Starvo, which this is, like I said...
In hindsight, you would have done better if you played
Yeah,
Starvo.
look, no, in hindsight, I should have played Prism.
Okay.
Right? Prism is a deck that I've... frankly, I don't think there's anyone in the world, and I have no way of verifying this claim, but I intrinsically know it to be true. I don't think there's anyone in the world who's played more games of Prism than I have.
Yeah, that's the Phil we wanted on here. Yes.
Even Fino Black himself.
Let him
Yeah,
know. No, Fino. Phil will kick your ass. That's right. That's
I'll
why
tag Fino.
That's what
I
we
don't know
wanted.
if I'm better than Fino. I've never played the guy, but I do
We'll
not
make it
honestly
happen.
think that... Yeah, I don't think anyone's played more Prism than I have. I've literally played it since day one Monarch. So it's always been in my toolkit. I decided to go for... We built a Lexi deck, which was
Spicy.
so cool. It was so cool. And we were really well positioned going in to Pro Tour. The deck was not exactly the way that Yuki has built Lexi in the past. We were playing like 9 winners bites, stuff like that. It was real degenerate, okay? It was a full, taxes deck, and that's what we wanted to go for in the format. The logic being, Starvo can't eat crayons if you take the crayons out of their hand. And it worked really well in testing. It worked really well in practice, and then I got to the Pro Tour and I paired in 3 Oldhams.
Did you expect Oldham to be that prolific at the
It
Pro
wasn't
Tour?
prolific.
Oh,
It was
wasn't?
one of the
Okay.
least played decks in the room.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just have the incredible, capacity to magnetize my worst matchup into me. Look, I loved the Lexi deck. I beat people who went on to do very, very well. In fact, all of my...
Was it you that beat Pablo? No.
it was I don't remember the guy's name. There was another guy. It might have... No, I don't think it was him. There was a chain that I played in round 1 who ended up doing really, really well. I think he made top something. I'd have to go back and check. But yes, it could have been Pablo.
I mean, it's
round
easier to
1.
check.
Yeah. I don't want to say that it was because I genuinely don't remember. I had a great time playing the deck, and then I lost one round to Quan, and then I just paired into a bunch of Oldhams. And I basically just got, I qualified for day 2. Technically, my record got me there, and I just went, I don't really want to play into this meta. I beat Stavos, right? I was exposed to the elements in them on turn 1, breaking their crown, and then, proceeding to lock them for the entire game while they sat there and cried. I played into Chains, who I locked for the entire game, watched them die to their own blood debt as they continued flipping cards off the top that they couldn't play because they were under 6 Frostbites and I was behind 7 Proxies. It was generally a great time to play the deck, but I just got paired into my worst matchup way too many times. So
Is it a hard deck to pilot? That
Absolutely.
Lexi deck?
It was way harder than... Definitely harder than Starvo. It's not a... Yeah. But it was way harder to play than any
Say
of the other
Prism?
decks. Yeah, definitely harder to play than Prism.
Okay.
And then I decided I'd just play the Calling instead. I played Prism. And then I got paired into Reinhardt twice because I can't catch a break at some of these events, man. So I got paired into Reinhardt twice and an aggro Katsu who had just exploded, did 20 damage to me on turn 1 through blocks. I just, was kind of sitting there getting roasted. So it wasn't the event for me. My premier memories of that trip definitely were, spending time with some of the content creators like Paul, like John, people from America, people from around the world.
You and I hung out with Rudy for a bit that night.
Yeah. Rudy and Saint and that sort of crowd. Fabled Academy, I met them. They were wonderful
Chris
people.
Size.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Met Chris. Obviously, we had that wonderful dinner in the hood of Union City, which was
Best
Jersey-
Uber ride
Jersey-
of
Oh,
my
Jersey
life.
City. Sorry, yeah, not Union. You were in Union City. I was in
Yeah.
Jersey City. Yes.
Best Uber life. Uber
Yeah,
ride
that was
of
probably
our
the best
life.
Uber drive of my entire life. And of course, after that, I went over to California and spent some time with my girlfriend over there. Went up to the Napa Valley, and that was obviously a big highlight. Just finally getting to. It's hard, living long distance, right? So getting to head over there and just catch up was fantastic, and drink a shit ton of really good wine.
There we
And
go.
I love my vino.
So you're going to go to Lille.
Yes.
Are you going to go to Worlds in November in San Jose?
How do you qualify?
I don't know, but I'm assuming there'll be a calling attached.
Right, so I
Would
just
you-
have to win in Lille, and then I can play
If you
in
didn't
Worlds.
qual for Worlds, would you go for the calling?
I've been thinking about it has to be off nationals. That's what's coming up. They might just go
They haven't released any details.
sure, but I imagine it's like X top of nationals plus PTIs.
Are we going to get
Yeah.
a pro quest for Worlds season?
No, there's
I don't know,
there's
man.
no time.
I don't have
There's
the
skirmish and
the
then there's
eagle eye,
nationals
right?
and then there's worlds, right? That's what's happening. What's coming up?
I have no clue.
But then what is going
Worlds
to
sounds like nationals goes to worlds, right? That's what.
No,
it
but you can use
timeline-wise,
PTIs to
you
get
can
into
use
Worlds.
yeah,
PTIs. yes,
PTIs are PTIs.
So what's
I'm
the
saying
pla-
for everyone else, it would make most sense that it's like
But
nationals.
my point is for Worlds, do you want it to be a 250 player tournament or a 700 tournament?
Yeah, if you want it to be more people, then there has to be another way to qualify. Than
Also,
just-
maybe it's invite only. Maybe
Yeah.
they just. Go,
I mean, I'd like it to be invite only.
yeah,
I think
maybe
that's
they
the
just go. These
correct
are
way
the
to do
top
it.
players. That's what I'm saying, though. I think they're going to look at nationals, look at XP boards, go and ELO and whatever they come up with, and go. These are the people we want because they've been updating ELO. So maybe between now and Worlds, is they look at ELO.
They're surely going to attach a calling. Do you think?
I guess so, but to be honest, if I don't do well at Lille, I probably won't go to Worlds. I'd rather focus on because my passion is not actually playing anymore. That was my passion 10 years ago. My passion now is much more in I want to make other people better.
Me.
Yeah,
me.
absolutely.
Everyone, me.
Stop forcing fire.
Yeah, you can.
Dromide. That's my next.
No,
hot tip.
stop
You can
forcing.
Well, I'm not going to play Icelander.
I mean, you can play.
I'm just
going
going to play. I'm just going to force five or six times, learn how to play it, and then I'll
I
either be.
literally sat next to him in the last draft, and I
And watched him
told him
force fire,
I'm going to
yeah.
force fire so that you don't.
and he still did.
Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I still went 2-1. So.
Yeah, what a gamer.
That's not the point. It's not so because you know what? 3 of your other mates force fire as well.
Look, I really would rather transition away from being a player. What makes me happier than anything, even in sports, when I played sports in high school, I did taekwondo at a very high level, but I was more enthused when I actually injured myself and I couldn't compete at one point, and I had to coach the team and ended up winning like state level championships, things like that. And I was much more fulfilled by seeing the development of the other players in my team and helping them get to really attain their best. That meant a lot more to me because I went to Worlds when I was 9-10 years old, right? I got there. I've done the thing. I haven't won a world champ. Oh, sorry. Well, no, I have won a world championship, but just not in
what?
another card game, which I had a brief contract with them, and I would rather like not talk about it too much.
Shit. This
But,
is
like,
the stuff we do want to talk about. Phil.
basically, it's a game called actually no. So Weiss. Technically, I don't know if people would consider this equivalent, but there was like a Japanese only event that I won. But yeah, there's another game called Shadowverse where I won like the first ever like international major in the draft format, which was it's a digital card game. It's kind of gone a bit weird now. Yeah, I've been involved actually like a lot of digital card games where I've been involved with like high level world championship stuff. But like I've done that and I can keep trying to do it. It's a lot of effort. I have so much credit to those people who can continually be top players. They are fantastic. The amount of effort you have to put in to be that good consistently is just ridiculous. It's a full-time job, basically, in terms of the amount of work that you're putting in. I personally just want to take a step back, manage players, help players get to the peak that they can get to. Whether it's the best players in the game right now and turning them into legends, or just taking anyone at a locals who just wants to go from being 0-2 to being 2-0 and maybe stop playing Briar and learn a better deck. that's what I actually genuinely want to do more. So yes, if I do well at PT Lille, if I get or if I win or get a PTI from Nationals, get a PTI from Nationals or top 8 or whatever it is, I'll go to Worlds. If not, you guys have fun. But I'll stay back here and or maybe, you know what, if I end up coaching someone who's going to Worlds, then I would go with them.
Oh yeah.
Or if I had a team that I was managing, or if someone wanted a team manager that needed to, teach them how to eat properly and, go to the gym, which are all important things you need to do if you want to be a pro gamer. It's not just waking up and playing League of Legends for 12 hours every day.
Nope. All those teams have like
yes, they have
psychologists
nutritionists and psychologists and accountants.
That's how they travel. And that the game, not saying Fab should do this, they're much smaller than these companies, but most of those companies, like Counter-Strike, they ship you and your team $250,000 worth of tickets, accommodation, everything.
Yeah.
Because they know how much that grows the game. What
Esports
grows the game
is
is
massive, yeah.
Yeah. But Fab, I know Fab can hit that sort of level without a digital client, but it can get to the level where you're definitely getting invited and flown to Worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. Physical card game can never reach that point because of cost of production and management of that supply cycle, but digital definitely can. Yeah, I think my place is definitely, at the home front rather than out in the battlefield. But I would still love to nurture my soldiers.
Nice.
Let's put it poetically.
Well, that is a beautiful Fluke. Anything from you, mate, before we end this?
He's going to be coaching us. So that's
think
all
so.
I've gotten from this whole fucking podcast.
I think so.
You're going to turn
if I don't top 8 nationals,
B-grade
Phil,
YouTubers
it's
into
your
pro
8
players.
nationals.
If I don't
now.
top 8
Okay.
nationals, Phil, it's your fault.
Are you going to play Prism?
Should I?
Well, if you want to top 8 nationals, you should probably play Prism.
Okay.
No, he's going to force fire and not lose
well,
a
if you-
single game.
No,
of
but that's
draft.
draft.
what's
I've got
the
the draft.
format?
I've got
What's-
the it's split.
half.
Oh, it's
It'll
the
be-
split again.
Yeah, it'll be draft.
You know
and
what? Okay,
constructed.
here let me just delay this podcast
All right.
slightly.
Let us go. This is what I love.
I really am not a fan of split formats.
Neither.
God.
Okay.
Really?
I'm happy
And
for
at
them
the-
to have them parallel.
Why?
Yes.
Tell
There-
me why.
Yeah, there's a nationals. You can qualify by drafting, but you're a draft player. You're a draft player.
Explain
Okay.
yourself.
It's a very simple reason why. The format that I think is the best in terms of innovation and being able to watch the game is where you can actually play
Constructed.
It's pure constructed, but asterisks, where on day 2 or day 3 or whatever it is, you can play a different deck, right? And the reason for that is that decks that are good in Swiss are not as good as decks that are good in top 8.
Like fatigue
or
decks
top
that
16.
might
So,
go
you,
to
so you're saying possibly you play a deck in constructed, then you can change decks for top 8?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
I've played this
Interesting.
in a bunch of other games.
I've never heard of that.
where
That's
been,
interesting.
That's been legal. It's been a thing in Magic. In some of it's definitely.
Well, way back.
It could be way back, but it has definitely been a thing in. I don't know what level of events, but there have definitely been events, even in Magic, that have been like this.
I mean,
where you
but
can swap
doesn't
decks.
that other game? Can't remember the name. You had 3 decks. So
Keyforge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Keyforge. You have more than one option.
Yeah, conquest formats, that's been a thing in Hearthstone and Runeterra and stuff like that. But specifically, being able to swap decks, I think if I go into an event where I have to play, I don't know, let's say how many events in total was Pro Tour if you played all the way to
3
the
events.
finals? No, but if you played all the way through to the finals, how many rounds did they have to play? How many matches? Like 15, something like that?
7 and 7 or something.
Okay.
773.
Right. So that's a lot of games.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be way cooler, just from a spectator standpoint, and also from a competitive standpoint, if you go into the field and you're like, right, I'm going to play my consistent deck, right? This is the deck that's going to get me into the top cut. And then I get to top cut, and out comes the spice, right? Out comes the
No
innovation.
one's seen this before.
It was potentially too inconsistent for me to win
It's
in
like
the Swiss.
pummel Dromo.
Okay.
Right? But now I get into top cut. I can't just play the same run-of-the-mill crap that everyone else is playing. I need to put a little bit extra in. I need to take risks, right?
Yep.
Because
That sounds fun.
So by the way,
definitely
this
sounds
is
fun.
what I felt they should have done with the team event. If you're going to have staff playing, they have to change decks. They can't just be on their pet deck that's
Maybe,
unbeatable.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, take the world's best wizard player and make him play Shiana. I want to see what he comes up with.
right.
He's still probably going to win.
Yeah, sure,
If he's-
absolutely. They're phenomenal players.
Yeah.
But then with a split format event, the reason I particularly don't like draft, and I don't like it for this particular format, is because I personally feel like Constructed is ultra skill testing and ultra skill rewarding right now. And I think there are certain decks that you can play, not just Prism and Oldhim. I think there are other decks that you can play where you can reach a level of mastery that is more rewarding than we have ever seen in the history of competitive broadcast Flesh and Blood. Because we have to remember, the first time that competitive Flesh and Blood was really broadcast was Monarch.
Chain.
Where we had what? Chain. Then what did we have after that set?
Briar.
Unbanned Briar.
And was it unbanned Chain? No, it was banned Chain by the time
It was
we
banned
saw
Chain
it on
by
camera.
then.
Yeah.
And then what was the next format?
Starvo.
Right. Every single
Can
one
we
of those
just say
formats-
dog shit, all three?
Oh,
to watch.
all of them
you
were
get
not
the
fun to
mirrors,
watch.
You get Starvo mirrors. What am I watching?
They weren't fun to watch and they weren't fun to play. And frankly, I didn't think they were rewarding to play in either.
That's different right now.
Uprising, there are a handful of decks which I think are very skill testing, and any top player can pick any of those decks and can win if they themselves are better than the person across the table from them, right? Which is a fantastic thing. Don't ruin that by introducing the undeniable higher... I'm not saying it's the highest level of variance, but undeniably
Much higher
higher
variance.
level of variance of draft versus the current constructed format. And I think it's absolutely undeniable that the current draft format, in terms of the people who are consistently winning, is much higher variance. I don't know how much higher. I can't put an exact number on it, right? But it is higher variance than constructed. And I think that is such a shame when we are going into potentially the safest in terms
Meta.
of variance meta that has ever existed. I love seeing these control metas because this is when you find someone who has found something brilliant, right? Or is just played so much with their deck. They've learned. This is when the top players out there all around the world, someone who has, like, when you want to find that 1%, that unconscious competence person, they come out to shine in this format.
Yep.
And we will lose that if we continue to pair very, very high skill, low variance formats with higher variance formats.
I remember
such as draft.
last Aussie Nationals, Nick had the best or one of the best constructed records in the room.
Yes.
And then
And then he got shafted in the draft.
yeah, and 100% he can draft. Like he was 3-0ing most of the drafts at RC.
I went 0-3 in draft at Nationals. That's why I didn't make top 8.
Yeah, but
Or
they
day 2 or
literally
whatever it was.
what had happened is what's been happening to me in draft on occasion. Very different skill level, I know, but I'll think I'm doing the right thing, and then people to my left and right force something or take the wrong signal, and I'm like, oh,
Hit me with it, Paul.
Hey, I do like the idea of changing heroes top cut. I haven't heard of that before. That'd be cool. However, okay, I can't argue the point that it's less variance. Okay, who knows? You could be right. You're probably right. But I do believe drafting takes a hell of a lot of skill. A hell of a lot.
Paul, you can
Absolutely.
There's like
literally-
3
you can
levels to it. There's
Literally
like
draft
drafting
a
a
crown
deck.
of Providence.
Yeah, I know.
Of course,
but
it's variance.
it's yeah, but I'm just saying. There's drafting a deck. There's building a deck, and there's playing a deck. I know for me, I can draft decks very well. I can build decks pretty damn well. And out of those holy trinity, the thing that lets me down all the time is playing the deck. Same with Magic. I'd sit down with the best drafters in the country and I'd outdraft them a lot of the time, but I couldn't play as well as them. Okay, and that's what I think drafting is so unique because it tests those 3 facets of your game. How well do you draft? How well do you build decks under pressure? And how well can you play the game with something, play the game under those constraints? Now, I think draft does have that. I think it taps into something a little bit different to a constructive player, some sort of intuitive, almost like it's a little bit more musical. I think it's a little bit more artistic. I think playing a constructive format is... it's more, ones and zeros, whereas learning how to draft, and you saw it in Magic, like the people with the best elo in draft or the best ranked draft players in Magic would consistently rise to the top. Didn't matter what the format, where it was. Like you had those high level draft players that they were average at constructed, but they were beasts at draft. They had that they had that special something. They could navigate a draft no matter what the format. And then you had, the Brad Nelsons that were just the constructed juggernauts. Couldn't really play, or they could play limited better than the average Joe, but standing up against these limited masterminds, they couldn't. They just didn't have the three ingredients of drafting a deck, building a deck on the spot, and piloting that deck. They couldn't succeed in that environment at the highest level. They were best suited to brewing their deck, playing it a million times, and working out sideboard plans, all that. That's how they succeeded. So I do like, now maybe we'll see all limited Pro Tours. Maybe we should have that. Maybe we should have.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Maybe we should have, and they used to have them in Magic
Yep.
way back.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't agree with the notion that draft variants bad for pro play. No,
it's the mixture.
I think it's very good.
Okay, let me put a theoretical to you, okay? And I'm not calling you out.
Hey,
here,
call me
okay?
out.
But I'm going to use you as an example. I'm going to use you and me as an example.
Yeah,
actually,
tell me.
Okay. What's your constructed record against me?
God,
I can tell you what it is.
Tell me.
It's 0%.
No, I've beaten you. I beat your prison deck 3 weeks ago with Reiner.
Jeremiah.
No, you were on prison. I high rolled you. Remember, I went Blood Rush Bellows, a cardboard
What's this guy
cafe.
talking about?
A cardboard cafe. You couldn't believe it because
What are
I
you
got
talking
so
about?
lucky.
What is this guy talking about?
No.
don't know
I think have one win.
Was this in Blitz?
No, it was CC at
Okay.
Ryan's. I've had one win,
Okay.
It's low.
Okay.
but I've only played you a few times.
Okay. Your draft win percentage against me is much higher. Do you feel, when you sit down across from me, are you more comfortable if you're playing draft or CC?
Draft.
Okay,
That's
why
the
is
issue.
that?
But that's the issue.
Is it because
doesn't even matter why?
No, but this is the thing, right? Do you
Because
seriously
I can
think
tell
that
you
there's
why.
that you have a secret source for draft?
No,
because if that's the case, absolutely, I get that.
No, not at all. The reason why I say that is because I haven't played a lot of draft against you. I think I played maybe 2 or 3 times against you, right? Against draft.
Yeah, you've won every time.
Yeah, but that's not a good indication. But I think I am more confident against you just because I think that you've put a lot more time, effort, thought, reps into CC than me. Outside of an armory, I've never played a game of CC. I've never played a game of CC outside of a sanctioned event. And that's why I suck at CC. Well, I don't suck at it, but I'm not above average. Until I spend the time with a mastermind like you, sitting down for 10 hours, talking theory and playing 100 games in a day, which I really want to do one day, I'll never get better at CC. In my opinion, you can't get better in CC by turning up to 1 or 2 armories a week, playing 3 or 4 matches. It's not going to cut the mustard. Whereas I think if I sit in a draft with you, I think that we're a much even keel, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no. So I agree. Draft definitely puts anyone on a more level playing field.
But I don't want to watch
I don't
that.
want to be on a level playing field. The reason why is because I've played for card games for such a long time. So then when I get a format where I'm rewarded for having put that time in, I've spent so long, specifically, don't get me wrong, I love playing drafts in a bunch of other games as well. I love playing Fab Draft. I think it's incredibly good. I think Welcome to Wraith Draft was great. I think Monarch Draft was fantastic. But then when I go to a premier level event where there's money on the line and suddenly I don't want to be playing on equal footing with you. I don't want it to be fair. I want to sit down across from you and just fucking stomp you, buddy.
That's
right.
Yeah,
I want you to see, and if you want to get into why I play card games, is because I want to dominate you across the board, mate. I want to point down at you at the end, and as I say to all Briar players, get good, son. I don't want it to be fair. I want you to have been overpowered by the fact that I am a better player than you. Or if you beat me, I want it to be because you are a better player than me and you've outplayed me. I don't want it to be because you first picked Phoenix form and somehow managed to line up, double flame into Phoenix form and you 0 for 5. I don't care about the third trigger.
luck factor
0 for 5ing me?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's also
get out of that.
the fact that you're limited, your scope of knowledge to draft this set well, or any set, is 3 or 4 heroes and their mechanics and cards, not the broad scope of the game. Like, you can, to test in CC, to be good at CC, you need to understand a good 20 decks.
Sure.
At least at a base level.
Yeah,
And
probably
then you have to be quite proficient about how you play against the top 3 or 4 decks. You have to know all that. It's much more different.
I'm also a strong believer that Flesh and Blood is so new, and even the stuff I see on the Flesh and Blood main YouTube page, okay, pack one, pick ones, I don't...
None of them pick the same card.
yeah, so basically what I'm saying is Flesh and Blood draft is just so unsolved. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason with how people approach it. I think it's so different. I think a lot of people are just approaching it from a mindset of how did we draft in Magic, which I use.
Sure.
Okay, I'm guilty of that, or whatever the case may be.
And it works.
Yeah, it does. But I think Flesh and Blood draft is very unique. I think once we get 10, 15 sets deep, you'll see Flesh and Blood, true Flesh and Blood draft strategies develop that you can't translate into other games. They're exclusive to Flesh and Blood, and I really believe that.
I think there's one of them that I know of, which is why I'm not enjoying the draft. well, no, but it's also why Fi and why other like in other sets, one hero always stood up apart is Fi has a weapon. So even if you draft mediocre, you can still pitch and swing, which on Fi is quite rewarding because you get a Draconic Chain and that. I'll tell you now.
But for 0 for 3 for no goal against, shit.
That's not how you draft Fi.
Yeah, I know, but
Let me
just
explain
saying.
something. And
It's better than nothing.
This is my prediction. You're going to force Dromai and go 0-3 way more often than you think. And then you'll draft. If you don't, an Icelander is way harder to play. But Icelander's the strongest hero in the set. But
I've played
draft
against
Icelander seems so much more complex than drafting Fi.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I've played against Icelander 10 times more than I played against Dromai, and to me, Icelander, maybe because I'm more familiar with it, because I just played against it so many times, seems so much easier than Dromai.
To play?
Yeah.
To draft is way harder. Yeah, once you have the cards, it's easy. You just pick what to put in Arsenal.
Don't you just pick blues?
No. See, no.
Yes and no, yeah.
No, because
I don't know.
Icelander, you're back to, I have to think about how many ice and elemental so I can fuse. It's hard.
There's a bit more
in
going
comparison.
on. Yeah. But then again, it's just like, I think...
And, by the way, like you can construct that and the ratios while you're in the middle of a draft and the cards dry up.
I still think Icelander's the most powerful deck. Like I don't think Fi is the most powerful deck. I don't. I think Icelander is the most in a vacuum's most powerful.
Fi
deck.
has the briar problem, way too strong and too easy to play. That's 100% what I think. And now that I've been drafting a lot, Fi's too easy and too strong. Off like when I forced it with someone next to me forcing it and 2 away was playing Fi as well. I went 2-1. I shouldn't go 2-1. If that was a Dromai deck, I would have 0-3 because I wouldn't have had the ratios. I couldn't have made Ash. And Icelander's the same. If you just don't have, like if you're missing 2 blues and 2 ice fuse cards to fuse with, your deck's shit.
Yeah,
it goes from shit to unbeatable. Like
very
within
quickly.
4
what
cards.
you're saying is Fi's more forgiving.
It definitely is.
But to a point where if you give a very forgiving deck with a weapon that you can pitch into the hands of someone who's also a very high elo player, it's a bit too much because the allowance they have to have crap cards in the deck and still win is way higher than
but those Icelander decks check those decks every day of the week.
Don't. Good ones do.
I think sometimes
ones
they do. It swings around.
Can I ask you both something?
Yeah, go.
Pods of 8. How many pods have you seen with less than 3 Fis?
Plenty.
Heaps.
Less than 3?
I've seen plenty with less than 3.
That's crazy.
But I will say,
I've seen none.
When I see pods with less than 3 Fis, the reason that I see pods with less than 3 Fis is because 2 people have... it's because there's 3 people in a row who, for some reason, have just decided to all draft Dromai or all draft Icelander. Yeah. And, they forced it.
We've had a couple of drafts here with less than 3 Fis.
Have we?
Yeah, we've had 2. We've had 2 drafts here with less than 3
I honestly
Fis.
don't remember.
No, okay. If that's true, it's because people like me are not looking at the cards when I'm sitting with you and Ryan Bell at the table anymore. I'm 100% serious. I'm not even calling out. And Sam Gubbins. It's the same thing. And by the way,
man.
But Ryan plays Icelander, though.
no, all three of you say you might play other decks, and then it's like 90%
He
chance
beat
it'll be
me in
fine.
the RTM
By the way,
final on
I get it.
Icelander.
I'm highly favored to play Dromai because that's my best deck. But 100%, I don't look at the cards when I play against. Like if I look around the table and I know what people are going to draft, I immediately don't draft those.
Okay,
heroes.
question for you then.
Yeah.
Pack one, pick one. What is going through your head?
What's
When
the
you look- when
strongest
you look
card
at your
that I
opening
want
pack.
or don't want to see?
Yeah. No, tell me. When you're opening your first pack, how are you evaluating your pack one, pick one?
I can't give you the whole list, but I'm
right
going,
now. What are you looking at? What hero you prefer to play? Raw
That's
power
a very
level,
weird question. to ask.
generic
I'm looking
class.
at what the no,
What are you
nothing.
looking at?
What's the strongest card? And then deciding whether I want to play it or I want to hate draft it out. Like if there's
You're not
something
going
in
to
there,
hate draft on pack one, pick one.
100%.
Oh, bro, that's
If I see Phoenix form or
That's
something,
kind of wild.
That's
I-
wild, bro.
I
No one
mean,
is. You can't.
that's
hate
kind of
pick-
wild.
No,
I will
but to
say.
me that keeps me open, right?
Sure.
It's me not choosing, but I'm going. I don't like if I see a Kyloria, I
Yeah.
take it because it's too. I don't want to see it, and I might play it.
Right, okay.
So I take it out.
So
no, I'm saying I pick the
yeah.
strongest card in my perspective that I will either play, or if I switch, I don't want to see. Like a Necria is not leaving my hand.
Sure. Yeah.
Right,
No,
a rake,
okay, I
a
get
rake
what
is
you're
not
saying.
leaving my hand. That's what I'm saying.
I
Oh, and by the way, any of the must-have equipments, the two chess pieces, Wizard and Draconic.
Yeah.
I keep it because either I'm going to build around it or I'm not. I don't want you to have that.
So I kind of go, and I think this is something that is like a very easy improvement that you can make to your draft game, assuming you're not forcing. But even if you are forcing, you can still do this. Actually, just figure out what the best two cards in the pack are. Mm-hmm.
Like total.
Yeah, so you can go as deep as you want, right? You can figure out what are the best three
about
cards.
the pack or in the set?
No, in that pack, right?
In the pack, sorry. Yeah.
What are the two best cards in the pack? What are the two or three best cards in the pack? Which one am I keeping and which one am I giving to the guy next to me?
Correct.
Right? And potentially which one am I giving to the person after that?
Yep.
What do I think they're going to take? So I have a tendency to I just tend to look three deep in every single pack. What are the best three cards in every pack, and work from there. I'm actually I think there's a lot of theory behind draft that is very complex. Definitely strategy with how to draft, how to force the people around you. That's actually what I find most interesting in draft, and I do this quite a lot when I can. I mean, I did it in Canberra where I forced the guy next to me into Icelander. I forced the person after him into Fi, and I could tell the person next to me was going Fi as well. And then when the packs came back in pack 2, I was basically getting 3 first picks of Dromai cards, which was my deck came out ridiculously strong. And then I got fucking high rolled. But yeah, I felt bad. But things like that I think are very interesting and more interesting ways of looking at drafting. But there's still variance, and there's more variance to it than there is in CC.
Yep.
And I just don't like that it kind of taints the purity.
Wow.
It taints the, almost, I don't know what a good word is, but
Say it in French.
you're not just going to get demonetized, you get shut down. No, I guess the
way I see it, at
the
a-
sanctity of the event
At
I
a
feel
base
gets
level,
touched.
you have 30 cards.
Yes.
3 of them you get free carte blanche on.
Yep. That's French.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it. 3 cards will sometimes win you the tournament.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's still, like I said, like I drafted once, Tails, and Nick Butcher pulled a Crown of Seeds.
Feels
Won
bad.
the event.
Yep.
Won the
okay.
event. Why? Because it's the card's already strong in the hands of someone as good as Nick. His briar deck was busted.
And let's also be very clear about something. You can bring tech to an event in your constructed deck that no one else has seen, which I will be doing in Pro Tour.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Look, by the way, I enjoy playing draft. Yes, 100%. What do I want to watch as a spectator or play when there's money on the line? 100% CC.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It does the draft make it more interesting and maybe a good break for players? I don't mind it, but I still think purity wise, like if you want the highest skill to win, it's got to be CC.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, it really is for me personally, I would rather the best player in the room always wins. And whenever I introduce any sort of limited format, the probability that the best player in the room wins drops.
By the way,
And
100% Worlds has limited in it.
Yeah.
No, like they've said it.